Chapter 269. Lu Fei shook her head. Let me tell you a piece of good news. I don't hate the weak you. Qin Guang was overjoyed. Doesn't that mean I can still? In your dreams. In the future, it won't be so easy for you to take advantage of me when I return to Wujing. But it's not like there's no chance at all. It depends on your performance. Well, it also depends on my mood. But if you really want to hit on me, I advise you to give up. I'm 4 years older than you. Also, don't think that you're very powerful with a net worth of 100 million. You're far from it. Of course, I plan to get married when I'm 35. While I'm still young, I can accompany you for a few more years. I'm telling you in advance, if I meet someone I like before, you'll have to accept your fate. Qin Guang began to curse in his heart. He cursed that Lu Fei would never meet a suitable man. Are you cursing me? Do you want to keep eating for free? Faster, thief. I've been seen through again. Since you're so cute, I'll tell you a piece of news. What? Originally, I really wanted to let you eat tonight, but you insisted on going back to Wujing. Of course, I fully understand your feelings. So you see, I waited until I got on the plane to tell you this. I didn't want you to be in a dilemma. Look how considerate I am. Qin Guang punched his heart hard and said with a sad face, You might as well not tell me at all. That's more considerate. Finally, the plane took off with a bang, bringing the heartbroken Qin Guang to Wujing City. On the other side, an entire hour had passed. Lin Jingwei and the others who stayed in front of the computer still couldn't calm down. Under everyone's request, Lin Jingwei pressed the replay button again and again. On the computer screen, the scene of the Mat GTR speeding away was replayed again and again. They had seen it 5 or 6 times, but every time it was replayed, everyone's heart would be in their throat. His speed was too fast, as if he would smash into the edge of the road at any moment. Finally, Gaoya grabbed the mouse and pressed the pause button. Hey, I'm done. If I keep watching this madman's competition, Lil Sun's brain is going to be deprived of blood. Zhou Jingxi, who was at the side, supported Sun Xiaoxuan's limp body. She thought about how Gaoya, a sharp girl, would often mention Sun Xiaoxuan's feelings for Qin Guang in front of her. Zhou Jingxi sighed slightly. In the end, her students still noticed something was amiss. Zhou Jingxi looked at the computer monitor again. In the paused image, there was only a black shadow in the driver's seat of the Mat GTR. But for some reason, Zhou Jingxi seemed to be able to sense the determination and madness in the black shadow's eyes through time and space. This guy really didn't have it easy. Brother Guang, now that you've earned so much money, you're going to turn from a salted fish into a rich man, right? When he comes back, we have to eat from the rich. Just at this time, Lady Whitesnake suddenly came up with such a sentence. Everyone turned to look at him. Why did this guy's brain circuit seem to be different from everyone else's? Why are you guys looking at me like that? Don't you think what I said makes sense? Lin Jingwei punched him. You're right, but I still feel like something's wrong. You're not paying attention to the same thing as us. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was at the side, didn't say a word. She was happy for Qin Guang. No matter how dangerous it seemed, he had defeated everyone, including himself. But in her heart, she was disappointed for herself. From now on, Qin Guang was no longer the broke teenager who was so poor that he had to work online to support his family. Just as Bai Nyangzi said, Qin Guang was now rich. His personal assets were close to 200 million. What kind of concept was that? Sun Xiaoxuan, who came from an ordinary family, couldn't imagine it at all. In fact, Sun Xiaoxuan's family wasn't poor. In her hometown Jiangnan province Wumian City, they were definitely above the middle class. Her father, Sun Quan, was a construction engineer with an annual income of more than 300,000. So when Qin Guang compensated Pan Jiang with more than 10,000 yuan in medical fees because of her, she felt very bad and wanted to immediately return the money to Qin Guang. 10,000 yuan wasn't a big deal for her, but Qin Guang's net worth was close to 200 million. Her father couldn't even make that much money after working for 600 years. Thinking of that number, her mind went blank. Different from Lin Jingwei, Bai Nyangzi, Xiong or Gaoya. These people all treated Qin Guang as a brother or a classmate, but Sun Xiaoxuan was completely different from them. All this time, Sun Xiaoxuan had been thinking about finding a suitable opportunity to confess to Qin Guang. Then after graduation she could stay with him in Wujing. If he was willing, she could also let him go to Wumian City with her. Then her family could find some connections to get them a job in the environmental protection system of Wumian City. Then they could get married and have children together. Slowly they could raise their children and grow old together. Slowly they could watch their children grow up, get married and have children. Then they could help their children take care of their grandchildren. She hoped that she could live healthily until she was 80 or 90 years old so that she could take care of him when he was too old to walk and needed someone to take care of him. What's more, he didn't want to grow old before him because if he died first he would become an old man and live alone in the world. From the moment she fell in love with Chen Guang, Sun Xiaoxuan's belief had been firm. She just couldn't muster up the courage to confess, so she was waiting for the right opportunity. But why did he suddenly become a rich man of 200 million yuan? Sun Xiaoxuan was still in a daze until Gaoye walked with her back to the girls' dorm. Xiaoxuan, what's wrong? Aren't you happy that Chen Guang won? Gaoye noticed her abnormality and poked Sun Xiaoxuan's shoulder. Sun Xiaoxuan took a deep breath and said, Gaoye, am I not good enough for Chen Guang? Gaoye was stunned and said, What's wrong with you, little girl? You're so pretty. How can you not be good enough for him? Sun Xiaoxuan shook her head. The lady in the leather suit who helped him auction the car is also beautiful. Her figure is much better than mine. I'm thin and short and she's tall and full. That sister can still help him, but I can't help him at all. Gaoye grabbed her and said, If you don't make things clear today, I can't let you go back to the dorm. I know you like him, but you can't put yourself too low. Chen Guang is good, but you're not bad either, right? You're not thin and short. You're small and cute, okay? How are you worse than that lady in the leather suit? It's just a completely different style. You don't know how many people in our class have a crush on you. Do you think Pan Jiang is the only one? It's just that the others know they can't compete with Chen Guang, so they keep it to themselves. But Sun Xiaoxuan was a little shaky. Chapter 270. Gaoye rolled her eyes again. I know what you're trying to say, but now that Chen Guang has suddenly become so rich, you're under pressure. You used to think that you could help him with your circumstances, but now you can't help him at all. You're going to be a burden, so you're starting to feel inferior and feel sorry for yourself, right? Sun Xiaoxuan turned her head away slightly and nodded lightly. Gaoye had seen through her. That's why I said you're silly. Think about it. When Chen Guang was so poor that he had to freeload off others, did you look down on him? Oh. Then what do you like about him? Sun Xiaoxuan thought about it and wanted to say something, but she couldn't. I don't know. I just like him. That's right. You like him for who he is. It doesn't matter if he's rich or poor. From another perspective, Chen Guang isn't completely uninterested in you, right? You can't have no confidence in yourself, can you? Sun Xiaoxuan thought about it again and blushed. He probably likes me a little too. Gaoye shrugged. That's it. Since you like him so much, can you have some confidence in Chen Guang? As long as you like each other, it doesn't matter how much money he has. When a man and a woman are together, it's about feelings, not money. As long as they really like each other, money doesn't matter. There's no such thing as being worthy or not. If Chen Guang really becomes a different person because he's rich and doesn't like you anymore, do you really need to like that kind of person? Is there a need to keep thinking about her? Are you in a hurry to stick your warm face to a cold butt? Sun Xiaoxuan's eyes lit up. Gaoye pushed her and said, All right, go to sleep. I don't even know how much you like him. You've been privately voted the prettiest girl in our school. Have some confidence. You're not even afraid of that one, and you're afraid of losing to someone else? Losing to me? The money I lost to Chen Guang? Sun Xiaoxuan nodded heavily. Yes. Thank you, Gaoye. What are you thanking me for? Isn't that what best friends do? Gaoye put an arm around her shoulders. What about Lin Jingwei and you? Gaoye pouted. We'll think about it when he becomes more manly. Xiao Lin is going to be infected by Nyangzi and turn into Lin Pingji. You know Lin Pingji, right? It was the one in the smiling, proud wanderer who practiced the sunflower manual. Oh no, the Bisha swordplay manual. Pure sissy 24K. Don't talk about him like that. I think he's sincere to you. The two of them whispered to each other as they went upstairs. On the other side, Zhou Jingxi was lying on the bed, tossing and turning. But in the end, she didn't have the meticulous thoughts of a little girl like Sun Xiaoxuan. She could only laugh at herself inwardly. What am I thinking? I'm a few years older than him and I'm his teacher. How is that possible? He helped me not because he had any feelings for me but because he saw me as a friend out of a sense of justice. How can I be so dirty and make him look down on me for no reason? If it was in the past, it would have been better. But now that he's so rich, if I were to steal young grass, I would definitely become a laughing stock. I shouldn't think about all these things anymore. I should focus on my own matters first. I haven't even gotten rid of my own troubles, so what right do I have to think about these meaningless things? On the other side of Gokyo University, Wenwen was still sitting cross-legged on the rooftop of the dormitory. Second Uncle Wen appeared behind her like a ghost. Qin Guang won. Wenwen didn't open her eyes. She only responded, "Oh, okay, I got it. Don't you want to know how he won? I think there's something fishy going on," Second Uncle Wen said in surprise. He thought that Wenwen would stop her cultivation and stand up to ask for details. Wenwen still didn't open her eyes. "I don't want to know how he won, and I don't need to know. It's meaningless. I understand why you guys are suspicious of him. In fact, I don't understand the changes that happened to him. But that's not important. For me, Qin Guang is Qin Guang. The pauper Qin Guang, the racing god Qin Guang, and the very capable Qin Guang are all Qin Guang. From the day I met him, he has always been an ordinary Qin Guang. I believe in my eyes and heart. I won't believe in your random guesses. Second Uncle, don't disturb my cultivation." Sco. Second Uncle Wen's expression stagnated. Wenwen's anger seemed to faintly drive the air around her to become heavy. He helplessly shook his head and gradually disappeared. After Second Uncle left for a long time, Wenwen slowly opened her eyes. Looking at the sky in the direction of Xianxia, she muttered to herself, "You've become even more powerful? Good. Maybe one day you'll be able to make everyone unable to ignore you. What the hell did you do behind my back? Sooner or later you'll have to confess to me. When this lady can't hold it in anymore, it'll be the time when you enjoy the Manchurian Qing's 10 great tortures." Qin Guang didn't know how many people in Wujing City were having sleepless nights because of his magnificent feat at this time. He was sleeping soundly with his head touching Lu Fei's head. Before falling asleep, he opened his eyes and looked at Lu Fei's head for a long time. He wanted to find some traces of the power of faith that was as thick as a thigh. Thinking about it carefully, a white thread as big as her head, no, it should be called a pillar of qi. It was connected to the cup in front of him. It was really terrifying. But why couldn't he find it? Why couldn't he see it? "Why do you keep looking at my head? Can't you let me sleep?" Lu Fei opened her eyes and glared at him fiercely. "Damn it, your thick power of faith must have been mixed with water. Can you be a little more respectful to the God in your heart? Dawdle again. I'll strangle you to death." He closed his eyes and went to sleep. He didn't want to think about anything else. "It's really unlucky to be on a plane with you. Every time I can only buy a transfer ticket. What a waste." The next morning at 10 o'clock, when the two of them finally sat in Lu Fei's Porsche 918, Lu Fei couldn't help but complain. Qin Guang was also confused. "Maybe I have a grudge with the airline." Lu Fei rolled her eyes. "Come on, people don't even want to talk to you if you don't have a platinum card, right? Should I send you back to school or to the hospital?" "Let me drive. It's been hard on you. I'll send you home first, then I'll take a taxi to the hospital." Qin Guang was really considerate. Lu Fei was amused. "You're going to teach me real kung fu again?" "That's right, real kung fu at 80 kilometers per hour. From this angle, I can't imagine that you're actually a god of racing." Sitting in Qin Guang's car, Lu Fei was really bored. "You don't understand real driving skills. Real top-notch skills are never learned by driving like a slave. You have to treat the car like a friend and treat it like a family. Only then can you be one with the car and your driving skills will be natural. How do you think I trained? I'll tell you the truth. It's from running the internet for a year." As Qin Guang spoke, he took out his phone and tossed it over to Lu Fei. "Open up my app and see how many orders I've taken in the past year." Lu Fei opened the app suspiciously. "More than 3,000 orders. Qin Guang pretended to be mysterious. "That's right. On average, more than 10 orders a day. It's from this life of running the internet day after day that I've trained my skills. That day when I said I'm going to teach you real kung fu, I wasn't lying. This is my biggest secret. No one else knows about it. I'm only telling you. Don't ever let anyone else know. Tow Wei. I also want to run the internet." "Didn't you say you don't want to race? It's not good for a girl to run the internet. Remember the stick I used to smash Zhong Bai's car window the first time we met? If it wasn't for that, I would have been robbed many times." Qin Guang rolled his eyes. She actually believed it. "Oh, forget it. Chapter 271. Qin Guang stood outside the ward for nearly 5 minutes before he finally plucked up the courage to push the door open and enter. Seeing that he was finally back, Qin Guoli was ecstatic, but he quickly hid it. Feng Rong, on the other hand, was much calmer. She looked at him cheerfully and said, "Xiao Guang, did you say thank you to your dad's comrade? I'm really sorry that you keep bothering him like this." Qin Guang replied, "It's all right. Uncle is quite a nice person." "That's right," Qin Guang lied to Qin Guoli, saying that his money was Jiang Yage's kept woman. Qin Guoli continued to lie to Feng Rong, saying that Qin Guang had gone to borrow money from his comrade again. It revolved around the core idea of making Feng Rong happy and the main purpose of making Qin Guoli less worried. One lie was wrapped in another, forming the main content of communication in this weird family recently. After chatting with his mother for a while, Qin Guang went downstairs to buy some fruits and flowers, then went to visit the donor's auntie in another ward. From the beginning to the end, Qin Guang did not mention a word about the other party's change of heart. Instead, he expressed his gratitude to the other party in every way, and even patted his chest to say that he would remember the other party's kindness. The gratitude fee was a total of 4 million. Qin Guoli had already paid 1 million as a deposit, and the remaining 3 million would be paid after the surgery was completed. Both parties had already signed the contract. Qin Guang did not mention the matter either. He even transferred another 100,000 from his card to the family's daughter on the spot, saying that it was for the aunt's nutrition. Qin Guang did not want to care about what happened in the past, nor did he want to be calculative about it. Right now he just wanted to comfort the family. At the same time, Qin Guang didn't care how expensive the reward was in the eyes of ordinary people, but he felt that as long as the final result was good, he could let go of any unpleasantness in the process. When he left the donor's ward, the auntie's daughter, a first-year university student in Xianxia City, the capital of Southeast Province, followed him out of the ward. Blushing, she pulled him to the hospital corridor and whispered shyly, "Mr. Qin, I'm sorry." Looking at this pretty little girl, Qin Guang smiled and patted her on the shoulder. "What's there to apologize for? I should be the one apologizing to you. I understand what happened before and I owe you guys. No matter what, in the future your mother's kidney will grow in my mother's body and we will be relatives. You will be my sister. This is my phone number. In the future, if you come to the 5 capital to play or if you need any help, just look for me." The girl lowered her head in shame. "Actually, this was all my idea. I thought you would scold us. I heard that you were coming back. Last night I thought for a long time to apologize to you, but I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." As the girl spoke, tears began to fall. During this time she was also under a lot of psychological pressure. The previous incident was one thing. Her mother was also a terminally ill patient, and it was the kind with no chance of survival. In front of her family she could still hold on, but now in front of Qin Guang she finally couldn't hold it anymore. Qin Guang's gentleness and generosity made the girl, who had no siblings, collapse. Qin Guang completely understood her feelings. Compared to her, he was actually the luckiest person. Sighing, Qin Guang reached out his hands to hold her shoulders. "It's okay, don't cry, don't be sad. Sai, I don't know how to comfort you." The girl wiped her tears and sobbed for a long time before gradually stopping. She looked up and saw that Qin Guang was still looking at her with a worried face. With red eyes, she turned her face to the side. "I'm sorry, I couldn't control my emotions." It's okay. It's good to cry to vent. Otherwise it's easy to get sick from holding it in. It's also because I'm stupid and really don't know how to comfort people. Otherwise, how could I watch you cry? No. Mr. Qin, you're a good person, really good. I don't need to be comforted. It's been so long I've thought it through." The girl continued to shake her head. "Previously, I heard from your mother that you're a freshman at Central South University of Technology. Actually, I'm also a junior. You calling me Mr. Qin? Mr. Qin sounds so weird to me." Qin Guang joked with her. "I already said that you're my sister. You can call me Qin Guang or Brother Guang. If you want, you can just call me brother." The girl blushed again, lowered her head and said, "Well, okay, Brother Guang. Right, you still don't know my name, right? I'm Fan Lingshan, you can call me Lingshan. Not you Lingshan's Lingshan. It's Fan Lingshan." The two chatted for a while, then Fan Lingshan said goodbye, turned around and went back to the ward. Just as Qin Guang was about to go back, a figure suddenly jumped out from the corner of the wall and stood in front of him. White clothes, disheveled hair just like Sadako. Ghost. Qin Guang retaliated with a backhand slap. The female ghost slammed into the wall. Hearing the voice, it was actually Tang Ying. After a lot of effort, Dr. Tang apologized sincerely, rubbed his head and blew off the bump on his head. Finally, Dr. Tang, who had been slapped against the wall, calmed down. You brat, be gentler. I was just joking with you, why did you have such a big reaction? Tang Ying pushed away Qin Guang's hand, rubbing her head. She almost fainted when she slammed into the wall. How can you blame me? Isn't it because you suddenly jumped out and scared me? You scared me to death. Qin Guang rolled his eyes. It's because I don't have heart disease. If someone with heart disease was scared by you like this, they would directly lie on the operating table. Slapping away Qin Guang's hand, Tang Ying shook her white robe and then tied up her hair again. Humph, to a little girl you act like a considerate big brother, but to an old doctor like me, you have this kind of attitude. How can you say this kind of thing? Qin Guang's face turned pale. If you're old and weak, then 99% of the women in the world are old and weak. I like what you said, forget it, I forgive you. By the way, Zhong Bai and Xiao Kai told me about your matter in Xianxia. In short, it's great that you can come back safely. If I knew you were going to do such a dangerous thing, I wouldn't have agreed. As Tang Ying spoke, she put her hand on Qin Guang's shoulder. Qin Guang grunted. He could hear the concern in Tang Ying's words, but he didn't take it seriously. Only those who didn't know anything would think that racing was a risk. But in fact, how could it be dangerous? It was completely beating up a child. Moreover, if he didn't prove himself through the car racing competition, God knows when he would be able to successfully trigger the hidden condition of the heavenly Holy Grail. This trip to Xianxia was totally worth it. Chapter 272. Qin Guang went to Tang Ying's office and sat for a long time. They talked about Feng Rong's current situation, and Tang Ying gave Qin Guang the last piece of reassurance. When Qin Guang was about to leave, he saw Tang Ying take out a pencil. Let me sharpen it for you. 5 seconds later, a vivid miniature rose appeared in front of Tang Ying. Even the wood shavings were still floating in the air, not falling to the ground. Tang Ying was dumbfounded. How is it? Does it look good? Does it look good? Is it cool? Do you want to learn? Qin Guang blinked proudly. He felt good today. To prove that he was the best sharpener in the world, he had to instill this concept in the people around him. That's right. When I get back, I'll buy a pencil and show it off to everyone I meet. Tang Ying took the rose that Qin Guang had forcefully sharpened with a pencil. Her mind was a mess and she couldn't understand how this guy did it. If she hadn't seen him holding a knife and dancing on the pencil with her own eyes, Tang Ying would have thought it was a magic prop that he had prepared in advance. Feeling that he had successfully acted cool, Qin Guang raised his eyebrows proudly. He turned around and walked out. He guessed that his dad wouldn't be able to hold it in any longer and would come out to ask him questions. When Qin Guang was far away, Tang Ying stomped her feet. That idiot. He didn't even sharpen the pencil core for me. How am I supposed to draw? She took out the pencil sharpener and placed it on the neck of the pencil, ready to sharpen it again. If she cut it, the rose would be gone. After a while, she didn't cut it. Instead, she carefully took out a piece of paper and wrapped the rose that Qin Guang had sharpened in 3 layers. Then she carefully put it in her bag and took out a pen to sharpen it herself. On the other side, Qin Guang was about to break down because of his dad. Dad, Mom's going to have her surgery the day after tomorrow. Can you stop watching me? Let me go. No, your mom's surgery is important, but you can't ignore this. You're still young and really don't understand, but you can't let your guard down. Qin Guang was extremely helpless. Your vitality recovery soup last time already caused me so much trouble. Don't come up with this kind of strange recipe again. What's wrong? It doesn't taste good? Qin Guoli had a blank look on his face. I've tried it myself. Although it's not as pure as the authentic lamb soup and it's a little messy, it's not that bad. Wait, how did you know it was vitality restoring soup? Qin Guang covered his face and thought, can I tell you that your son's life is in Dr. Tang's hands because of this tonic? They thought I was a patient in that area and wanted to save a good young man like me who couldn't lift weights. How much determination did he have? What if someone found out that it wasn't the case at all and thought that we, father and son, had teamed up to play hooligans? Wouldn't that be like having mud fall into one's pants? Anyway, before Mom's surgery is over, don't ever mention this to me again. Also, I'll transfer another 4 million to your account. Dad, you decide how to use it. Do you want to pay off the court's fine or do something else? Qin Guoli's eyes widened. His brain couldn't process all of this. If I remember correctly, before you left, you transferred 3 million to me as a token of appreciation. Then the day before yesterday you transferred 4 million to me. Now you have 4 million again. Why do I feel like something is wrong? Is it because the RMB has depreciated recently, or have we become Vietnamese? Is this money in Vietnamese dong? Why do I feel like this money isn't being used as money? Qin Guang really couldn't explain it to him, so he acted like a rascal. Fine. Just take it. Don't worry about it. Your son doesn't lack money now, not at all. This was the advantage of being a son. If he couldn't explain it clearly, he would act shamelessly. Anyway, Qin Guang had a look of, what can you do to me? And, you have to take the money whether you want it or not. In the end, Qin Guoli still accepted the money. Qin Guang initially thought that his father would deal with the matter with the court, but he never expected that his father would suddenly show a complicated expression and shake his head. Let's not return the money to the court for now. Let's just stay here. Qin Guang didn't understand. Qin Guoli didn't explain to him. Anyway, you won't understand even if I explain it. You don't have to worry about the family anymore. Although I don't know what you plan to do, you've already done enough. Really, it's enough. Zhang Yage is also not bad. Don't worry too much about those scandals in the celebrity circle. If you really love her, your dad will support you. But a man can't always rely on a woman. You've already grown up. Even if you haven't graduated from university, you should think about your career. Qin Guang roughly guessed what his father was hesitating about. Just as he thought before, there must be something fishy about the food poisoning at the hot pot restaurant. Dad, I've asked you many times before. You always said that those customers got food poisoning because you bought expired ingredients. This time you can't hide it from me anymore, right? Qin Guang frowned and finally asked this question. Qin Guoli was silent for a moment and nodded slightly. There's a problem. All the ingredients were personally picked by me. It's impossible for anything to go wrong. But this matter is really not simple. I've asked a lot of people in private, but they couldn't find out who was trying to frame me. By the way, don't blame Uncle Liao who made the judgment. He didn't hit me when I was down. If it wasn't for him, I might have to go to jail. He was also the one who suggested the bankruptcy. Anyway, I'll just wait for 10 or 20 years. As long as I don't have any assets under my name, no one can do anything to our family. Qin Guang nodded. He didn't object to Qin Guoli's idea, but he felt a headache. His father had been doing business in his hometown for many years and he was considered a friend. If he couldn't find any clues in the county, how could Lu Zhou investigate? Forget it, there will always be a way out. I'll find a suitable time to go back to the county and try. In the past, Qin Guang didn't believe in this so-called chicken soup for the elderly. But this time he really believed it. The next day when he heard that Professor Lu suddenly fell ill, he was completely dumbfounded. Although he had always liked to look for Tang Ying whenever he needed help, it was more because he and Tang Ying were of the same age. Their relationship was not the same as that of ordinary family members of patients and doctors. They could be considered as sincere friends. However, Qin Guang and Professor Lu still met from time to time. Even though this old professor had a lot of patients under his name, and he wasn't as friendly as Tang Ying, the old man's medical skills were not compromised. He was always able to hit the nail on the head. This included the treatment plan for Feng Rong. Even though Tang Ying was the one who proposed it, the final decision was always made by Professor Lu. The old man wasn't the person in charge of the treatment group, but he was also responsible. But man proposes, God disposes. Just as the operation was about to begin, the original chief surgeon unexpectedly fell ill. Chapter 273. Sitting in Tang Ying's office, Qin Guang didn't smoke. Otherwise he would have gone to a corner and smoked like a smoker. Tang Ying was busy outside. Professor Lu's sudden illness didn't only affect Feng Rong's surgery, but several other high-ranking patients were also transferred to Tang Ying's name. During her time as Professor Lu's assistant in Feng Rong's treatment group, Tang Ying had completely proven her ability. When Professor Lu first fell ill, he ordered all his patients to be transferred to Tang Ying. He wouldn't be able to trust anyone else. The old man was seriously ill, and it seemed like he wouldn't recover anytime soon. Tang Ying was also very busy. She finally talked to all of the new patients and read through all of their medical records. She finally had time to go to Qin Guang's office. As soon as she saw the bitter expression on his face, Tang Ying glared at him angrily. Ever since the news of Professor Lu's illness came out last night, Tang Ying hadn't had a good rest. She was so busy that she wanted to curse. However, when she saw this guy, she suddenly felt a lot better. Are you done? My mom's surgery tomorrow. Qin Guang could tell that Tang Ying was in a hurry. Even though he knew that the hospital would definitely have a solution, he couldn't rest until he asked her about it. Tang Ying threw a large stack of documents on the desk and turned to look at Qin Guang. Okay, I know you don't trust me. But this time, whether you trust me or not, you can only rely on me. As a doctor, I can't promise the patient's family. Even if it's you, I can only talk to you for a while. I'm really confident. Are you willing to trust me? The doctor at the next desk coughed violently as if he was trying to warn Tang Ying. If it were any other patient's family, they wouldn't have dared to say something like this before the surgery was even done. If something went wrong, it would definitely become a medical dispute. The doctor coughed violently. Qin Guang and Tang Ying understood what he meant. He was being kind, but they ignored him. Seeing that he was being snubbed, the man snorted and walked out. Before he left, he said sarcastically, "It's good for young people to be confident, but don't cause trouble for the hospital. I'm sorry to have made things difficult for you." Qin Guang sighed. Tang Ying looked around. Seeing that there were only the two of them in the office, she walked up and stared into Qin Guang's eyes. "I told you, trust me. I'm not trying to comfort you, but I'm really confident. Of course, I wouldn't say this if it was another patient, but your mother is a perfect match with the kidney. As long as I don't cut off the liver as the kidney during the surgery, she will be fine. Thank you." At a time like this, Qin Guang didn't know what to say. He was truly ashamed of Tang Ying's kindness. Tang Ying blinked. "Look at you. We're friends, aren't we? I have some information here. They are the records of my previous surgeries. You can take a good look at them. I'm not bragging to you, but the degree of finesse in my surgeries is not much worse than the fancy work you did yesterday when you sharpened your pencils for me. You just need to worship me crazily after reading it. I'm not going to chat with you anymore. I'm going back to work." After saying that, Tang Ying twisted her slender waist and took out another medical record. She walked to the door of the office and called a nurse over. Sometimes, Qin Guang really admired these doctors, especially Tang Ying, who was in charge of many patients in the inpatient department. He couldn't understand how these doctors' brains worked. How could they know so many patients' conditions like the back of their hands? How could they come up with a solution just like that? Today, Qin Guang returned to school to take his final exam. He didn't want to participate at first, but he accidentally blurted it out in front of his mother, so he was forced to go back. He didn't expect to come back today. He didn't have time to study for this class, and he skipped a lot of classes. He didn't even finish half of the papers before they were collected. It seemed that he couldn't escape the fate of failing the exam this time. Qin Guang rested his chin on his hand and turned to look at Lin Jingwei and the others, who were checking their answers. He didn't want to talk to them at all. When he came back last night, these three grandsons had already lined up the names of the restaurants he was going to treat them to, from the east to the west, from now until graduation. It was as if they wouldn't stop until the rich were poor. The dormitory even gave Qin Guang a nickname in private: the man who made 200 million in one night. No matter how he heard it, it didn't sound right. The surgery was tomorrow morning, so he didn't plan to go back to the dormitory tonight. He wanted to stay in a hotel outside the hospital. Just as he was about to get up and leave the classroom, Lin Jingwei and the others suddenly came up to him. The only people who knew that Qin Guang's mother was going to have surgery tomorrow were the three grandsons, Sun Xiaoxuan and Gao Ya. They were all here. Everyone knew that Qin Guang was a little absent-minded at this time, so they didn't say much and just gave their blessings. Qin Guang only said thank you for everyone's blessings. He didn't say anything else and prepared to go to the parking lot. The more critical the last moment, the more his heart couldn't calm down. The blessings from others could at most comfort him mentally. Qin Guang didn't even have the mood to let Lin Jingwei and the others accompany him. Lin Jingwei and the others wanted to follow, but Qin Guang refused. There was no need for that. Not many people in the hospital could condense telekinesis to protect the surgery and make it go smoothly. Everything should be left to the illusory fate. Since he had touched the bell of fate for his mother's illness, everything would go smoothly in the end, right? As he walked downstairs, Qin Guang comforted himself in his heart. Qin Guang, wait. Suddenly, Sun Xiaoxuan's voice came from behind him. Qin Guang turned around and saw her running down the stairs alone. Before Qin Guang could say anything, Sun Xiaoxuan grabbed his hand and pulled him forward. I heard from Lin Jingwei that you plan to stay outside the hospital tonight? Qin Guang nodded. The surgery is at 9 a.m. tomorrow, so I might have to get up at 6 or 7 a.m. to work. I'm afraid I won't be able to get there in time if I go from school. Although I don't know if I can help, I want to go with you, okay? Although she sounded like she was asking for his permission, Sun Xiaoxuan was actually squeezing her hand tightly. The conversation she had with Gao Ye 2 nights ago had given her a lot of courage. Today she finally put it into practice. Qin Guang didn't understand what Sun Xiaoxuan meant. I'm the class monitor of the environmental sciences. I have the responsibility and obligation to care about the physical and mental health of my classmates. I can't let you handle such a big thing alone. You have to learn how to find someone to share your burden. Sun Xiaoxuan suddenly shouted at the top of her lungs in the stairwell. Passers-by looked at her with puzzled eyes, which made her blush. However, she stared at Qin Guang without blinking. Okay. In the end, Qin Guang gave in to her persistence and agreed to go to the hospital with her. He was indeed convinced by her identity as the class monitor. Sun Xiaoxuan did help a lot. The preparation before the surgery was more complicated than expected. Qin Guang and Qin Guoli were both busy in the hospital. Sun Xiaoxuan took the initiative to help buy food and help Feng Rong with towels. These were simple but tedious tasks. When Qin Guang and Qin Guoli were too busy, she could sit by Feng Rong's bed and take care of her at all times. Feng Rong's mental state wasn't very good because she had used the immune suppressant in advance. She was already in a daze and was about to fall asleep. When she opened her eyes, she vaguely saw a rather obedient girl sitting in front of her. She asked weakly, "Is this little Guang's girlfriend?" Sun Xiaoxuan, who was sitting by the bed, blushed and said in a voice even lower than Feng Rong's, "Yes." When she finished, she turned to look at Feng Rong, but she was already asleep. Sun Xiaoxuan playfully stuck out her tongue. She didn't know if Auntie Feng heard her. She felt a little sweet and a little nervous. Chapter 274. When they finally finished, it was already 11 o'clock at night. The treatment group's work wasn't finished yet, but it was no longer something that Qin Guang could meddle in. Although Qin Guang didn't want to leave, Qin Guoli still pushed Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan out. Young people are still growing, so I don't need your help here. Go and rest early. Qin Guang, you have to get up early tomorrow morning. Qin Guoli said as he pushed them away. Looking at his dad's weird expression, Qin Guang knew that he had something to hide. But Qin Guoli didn't give him a chance to defend himself. He quickly closed the door of the ward, leaving the two of them in the empty hospital corridor. Qin Guang awkwardly glanced at Sun Xiaoxuan. Just when he wanted to apologize, he saw the girl lowering her head with her face blushing. She was looking at the floor with a bashful expression. Hey, it's not as simple as you think. I lied to my dad. I was Jiang Yage's mistress. Now that he has this kind of misunderstanding, doesn't it mean that I haven't eaten a single piece of meat, and in my dad's heart, I've become a two-timer? What the F***ck? What kind of injustice is this? Besides, Dad, don't you feel ashamed? You raised a son like Qin Shimi, don't you feel ashamed? You just pushed me out in such a hurry? Qin Guang felt that his whole body was about to collapse. He walked out of the hospital with Sun Xiaoxuan. Not long after, his phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was from his dad. Based on the principle of prevention, Qin Guang quietly turned his phone away when he read the message, so that Sun Xiaoxuan wouldn't see it. This little girl is not bad. She's living a good life. Cherish her. You can make your own judgment on your own. But in my humble opinion, although a glamorous life is good, it's not as good as a simple life of cooking. A person's life is long. Finding someone suitable for living a stable life is a long-term solution. It was obvious that Sun Xiaoxuan's appearance today, her wholeheartedly helping out, and her gentle appearance of the daughter of a Jiangnan river village had easily captured Qin Guoli's heart of fairness. However, in Qin Guoli's heart, Qin Guang had indeed received a lot of benefits from Jiang Yage, so he couldn't say anything too harsh. He simply expressed his stance and hoped that Qin Guang could handle the relationship on his own. He subtly pointed out that perhaps the celebrity was just playing with him. Qin Guang was really confused, but he couldn't explain it. What's wrong with you? Sun Xiaoxuan asked in a low voice. Under the cover of the night, her face was also very red. If they were just classmates, why would a girl accompany another boy to take care of his sick mother in the hospital in the middle of the night? From the moment she decided to come here, Sun Xiaoxuan had already made up her mind to purposely leave such a misunderstanding for Qin Guang's parents. Although she was always timid like a little girl in front of Qin Guang, as the class monitor for more than 3 years, she handled the class affairs in an orderly manner. She was very scheming. It's nothing. It's getting late and I forgot to book a room at the hotel. The hotels near the hospital are very popular, so I don't want to run out of places to stay. About half an hour later, Qin Guang couldn't help but want to sew up his mouth. The two of them went to 7 or 8 seemingly good hotels near the hospital one after another, and all of them were unexpectedly full. However, some small hotels in the alleys were very enthusiastic and came up to them, saying that they still had vacant rooms. However, when Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan saw the moral character of these small hotels and the gloomy atmosphere in the alleys, they were somewhat deterred. The two of them mustered up their courage and barged into one of the hotels. The heavily made-up proprietress enthusiastically pulled the two of them up to the second floor. The proprietress pushed Qin Guang up with her overly large breasts, while Qin Guang strenuously protected Sun Xiaoxuan. The stairs to the second floor were so narrow that it seemed like a mouse had built it. I'm not bragging, but my red apricot hotel is the thumbs up in this entire street. As the proprietress spoke, she forcefully lifted the wooden door with her hands. Finally, the key didn't break in the lock. A pile of cement or ash fell out of the door frame. The proprietress thought it was a facial mask and wiped it on her face with a smile. Less than 10 seconds after entering the door, Qin Guang was shaken back by the thick sour smell of the small hotel's bedding. He didn't care, but how could he let a delicate little girl like Sun Xiaoxuan stay in a place like this? Besides, Qin Guang planned to get 2 rooms so that he could sleep peacefully until tomorrow morning. But Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't. This place wasn't safe. Just by looking at the thin wooden door and the most old-fashioned oval lock, this place was uninhabitable. Hey, don't go. We've already opened the door for you. You can't go. The two of them fled in panic under the pursuit of the proprietress. It wasn't easy for them to escape from the claws of the proprietress. When they came back to their senses, they discovered that they were holding each other's hands and were gasping for breath from running. Looking at each other's battered and exhausted appearance, the two of them pointed at each other and burst into laughter. After searching for another 20 minutes, they finally found a decent-looking business hotel. However, there was a new problem. It said that there was only a standard room with 2 single beds. Then Qin Guang would have to sleep in the same room as Sun Xiaoxuan. Although Qin Guang felt that this wasn't right, he had no other choice. It was almost 12:30 p.m. Sun Xiaoxuan seemed to be very sleepy due to her regular biological clock. She couldn't even keep her eyes open. Hearing that there was only 1 room, she didn't seem to care. She only said, "I'm fine. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep." Then she didn't move again. She looked like her brain had completely shut down. At first, the hotel manager didn't want to let Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan stay. After all, there was only 1 room and they were both young. It wasn't until Qin Guang took out his UBS black gold card that the hotel manager, who knew a little bit about business, stopped pestering them about whether they were husband and wife and let them go. The UBS card was relatively rare. Although it wasn't the highest level card worth 10 billion gold, it wasn't something that ordinary people could get their hands on. Because it was directly linked to the UBS, it was even rarer than the American Express Centurion Black Card that was represented by financial institutions such as ICBC and China Merchants Bank. Qin Guang's 180 million in cash was like a huge fortune in the eyes of ordinary people. However, in front of a huge banking institution like the UBS, it was indeed not enough. The fact that he was able to get this card so easily was actually a great deal of face for Lu Fei and Uncle Cheng. Inviting the person in charge of the UBS Asia-Pacific region was so smooth. Of course, if Qin Guang wasn't afraid of trouble with his current personal assets, he could completely meet the standards of the ICBC and China Merchants Bank to apply for a Centurion card. However, the UBS card was quite useful. Now it seemed that the black card's effect was basically up to standard, so he didn't bother with it. Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan followed the enthusiastic manager upstairs in the elevator. During the elevator, Sun Xiaoxuan leaned against the elevator. In just a few seconds she actually looked like she was about to fall asleep. Qin Guang held Sun Xiaoxuan's hand to prevent her from slipping to the ground. He also felt ashamed. She had helped him run up and down and it was quite tiring. Also, because of his own mistake, it took them until now to find the hotel. How tired was this poor little girl? Well, when they get to the room there were 2 beds anyway. She would sleep on one and he would sleep on the other. Soon she would fall asleep. Maybe there wouldn't be any problems, right? Qin Guang didn't notice that Sun Xiaoxuan quietly opened her eyes slightly. The eyes that penetrated through the gaps didn't look like she was about to fall asleep, but were clearly shining. Chapter 275. F***CK. Manager, are you kidding me? Where's the standard room with 2 single beds? Why is there a double bed here? As soon as he inserted the room card, the lights in the room turned on. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. The manager, who was about to go downstairs, was called back by Qin Guang. Qin Guang pointed at the big bed in the room and felt terrible. At this time, Sun Xiaoxuan had already staggered into the bathroom. It seemed that she was getting ready to wash up. The manager was also a little confused. He scratched his head. Mr. Qin, I'm really sorry. I'm not usually the receptionist. The staff at the front desk are more familiar with the system. I'm a little out of practice. I must have seen wrongly, but we really only have 1 room in the hotel. How about you make do with it tonight? Qin Guang wanted to strangle Sun Xiaoxuan to death. The bed was large enough for him and Sun Xiaoxuan to sleep on 2 sides, but Qin Guang wanted to strangle Sun Xiaoxuan to death. However, 1 bed and 2 beds were completely different. If he had known that the standard room was a double bed, he would never have come up like this. The manager smiled apologetically. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. On the other side, Sun Xiaoxuan didn't seem to notice what Qin Guang and the manager were talking about. She had already closed the bathroom door in a daze. From the sound, it seemed that she had turned on the water heater and was ready to take a shower. Qin Guang felt a headache coming on. He looked at the manager helplessly. He really couldn't blame him. In fact, the manager had already helped him a lot today. Strictly speaking, he and Sun Xiaoxuan weren't husband and wife, so the manager could have refused to stay. He heard that the hotel industry had recently been very strict in some aspects. From time to time there would be a sweep. The manager had taken a risk by letting people in. Forget it. That's it. Sorry to trouble you, manager. Qin Guang shook his head helplessly and let the manager go. After locking the door, Qin Guang sat on the big bed with a pained expression. In the bathroom, Sun Xiaoxuan desperately splashed cold water on her face. Half of her drowsy look was fake and the other half was real. She usually slept at 10:30 a.m., but she was still awake today because of this special situation. Before this, she didn't expect that she would stay in the same room as Qin Guang. She was caught off guard and hadn't completely recovered from the moment she went upstairs from the lobby of the hotel. Her mind was in a mess. She seemed to be expecting something but also afraid of something. She was completely confused, so she simply pretended to be sleepy and didn't care about anything else. She didn't want to embarrass herself and didn't want Qin Guang to ask her for advice. She was worried that if Qin Guang really asked her what she should do, would she agree immediately? Or should he reluctantly refuse? If I agreed immediately, would he think that I was being too casual? If she rejected him, wouldn't it seem like she didn't trust him? What a headache. So I'll pretend to be asleep. It wasn't until he locked himself in the bathroom and washed his face with cold water to refresh himself that Sun Xiaoxuan could finally think about this matter a little more clearly. There was a voice in his head that sounded like a little devil. Sun Xiaoxuan. This is the best opportunity you've been waiting for. With Qin Guang's personality, if you really gave your body to him today, he wouldn't be a heartless man. But another angel-like voice said, Sun Xiaoxuan, you can't do this. You haven't even fallen in love with him yet. How can you do such a crazy thing? This is irresponsible to yourself, and it is also irresponsible to Qin Guang. The devil spoke again. As long as there is true love, how can there be such a thing as irresponsibility? Does every first love in this world hold hands and walk to the end? Isn't being crazy about love something that young people like you should do the most? Don't worry about the future. God knows what the future will be like. Just hold on to the present tightly. If you don't hold the present tightly, how can you win the future? There are so many competitors, how can you compete with them? The angel-like voice retorted, if you hold the present tightly, you will lose the future. Qin Guang had just made a fortune and you took the initiative to throw yourself into his arms. What will he think of you? He will think of you as a woman who doesn't have any self-respect for money. Even if this is your first time, once this image is formed in his mind, you will never be able to get his true love in this life. You can only progress step by step. She fiercely splashed cold water on her face again. The cold water droplets slid down her delicate cheeks. Sun Xiaoxuan shook her head fiercely and gradually became clear-headed. She was frightened by the words of the angel in her heart. She wasn't afraid of anything, but she was afraid that Qin Guang would misunderstand her. The halo formed by the 200 million cash on Qin Guang's body was too dazzling. As a girl from an ordinary family, it was impossible for her to turn a blind eye to it. The more she didn't care about money, the more she couldn't ignore the potential damage that money could cause to a relationship. Thinking of this, her unusually excited and uncontrollable mood gradually calmed down. She took off her clothes and planned to take a shower first before thinking about it. Even if she couldn't make up her mind, she couldn't stay in the bathroom until tomorrow morning, right? She applied the shower gel on her body and rubbed it in front of the mirror. Looking at her relatively petite but curvaceous figure in the mirror, Sun Xiaoxuan suddenly froze. Wait, I seem to have made a mistake. It seems like this kind of thing shouldn't be something that a girl like me should think about. I'm a girl sleeping in the same bed with him. If he really wants to do something, then wouldn't it just happen? Of course, with Qin Guang's personality, especially with Auntie Feng's big surgery tomorrow, Qin Guang most likely wouldn't have that kind of thought. The probability of that happening was less than 1%, but it was at least 1%. In other words, even if nothing happened, even if I just lay in the same bed with him for a whole night, it would still mean that our relationship had improved by leaps and bounds. I don't need to think about anything or hesitate at all. I'll just take a shower and lie on the bed naturally. Although I don't have a hot body like that sister in the leather jacket, and maybe I'm not as charming as one when I'm not bad, right? Sun Xiaoxuan clenched his fists tightly as he looked at his exquisite face in the mirror, as well as his slim waist that made Yiye envious. He was also holding up his chest, which was unique to young girls. I can't feel inferior, I'm really very charming. All I have to do is to act as natural as possible later. Sun Xiaoxuan took a shower and used the hairdryer to dry her hair. 20 minutes had passed and it was almost 1 o'clock in the morning. She thought about it and in the end she didn't wear the bathrobe provided by the hotel. Instead she put on her pants and only wore a thin t-shirt. She then wrapped her white bra in her jacket and walked out of the bathroom with her neck shrunk. Chapter 276. Sun Xiaoxuan turned his head and saw Qin Guang sitting on the double bed with a dull look on his face. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't know whether he was disappointed or secretly laughing. I knew this guy would scare me silly. In other words, if Qin Guang was a perverted beast like Pan Jiang instead of him being like this, I wouldn't have fallen in love with him at all, would I? I'll leave it to God. Taking a deep breath, Sun Xiaoxuan forced a seemingly natural smile on his face. Don't let your imagination run wild. There's only one room in the hotel and it can't be helped. If you keep looking around like this, you won't be able to sleep until tomorrow morning. Besides, I didn't say anything. You're a boy, so why are you embarrassed? Qin Guang raised his head and was indeed embarrassed. I didn't expect it to be a double bed. It's all my fault that I didn't think of using my phone to book a room earlier. If it were another time, he would have to share a room with another girl and even sleep on the same bed. It would be strange if he didn't get excited. But at this moment, a small part of his mind was troubled by the current situation, and the other part was thinking about the scene of his mother being pushed into the operating room the next morning. He didn't have the mood to think about those trivial thoughts at this time. He was even sure that it would be a sleepless night for Sun Xiaoxuan, regardless of whether he could sleep or not. Qin Guang didn't expect to fall asleep at all. At most he would just lie on the bed and rest for a few hours. Kidney transplant surgery usually took 4 hours. At 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the success of the surgery could be determined. At this point, Qin Guang could only choose to believe that the kidney source brought by the power of destiny from the Holy Grail was so perfect, and he could only believe that Tang Ying, the genius doctor from Moorlands Medical College, wouldn't let him down. His mind was thinking about many things, so he didn't think very fast when talking to Sun Xiaoxuan. He didn't even notice the strange tremble in Sun Xiaoxuan's voice. On the other side, Sun Xiaoxuan pretended to be calm. He walked to the side of the bed by the window, put his coat next to the pillow, pulled off the quilt and crawled under it. He stuck his head out. It's okay. Isn't this bed pretty big? There are also 2 quilts. We'll cover each other. You can't sleep in the middle of the night and snatch my quilt, right? You don't have the habit of snatching blankets, do you? Qin Guang shook his head. No. Sun Xiaoxuan smiled mischievously. Good. I'm relieved. Then she hid under the quilt, took off her trousers and threw them beside the pillow. Qin Guang, following Sun Xiaoxuan's movement, her originally bundled coat was knocked loose, revealing her white bra inside. Qin Guang was staring blankly at her as she took off her pants. When he saw her bra, he was even more dumbfounded. You. Qin Guang couldn't hold it in any longer. Sun Xiaoxuan, on the other hand, stuck his head out of the cup with a red face and glared at him. Pervert. Qin Guang continued. Hurry up and take a shower and go to sleep. I've set the alarm clock. I have to wake up at 6 tomorrow morning. I can only sleep for 5 hours. I'll wrap myself up in the quilt. I won't let you take advantage of me. Then she pushed her clothes under the pillow and with a shy look she really rolled left and right in the quilt, turning herself into a silkworm chrysalis. When Qin Guang went to the bathroom to take a shower with a bitter smile, Sun Xiaoxuan stared at the ceiling with a red face. She suddenly realized that she seemed to have overdone it. Originally she wanted to give him a chance to accidentally crawl under her quilt. Now that she was wrapped up like a silkworm cocoon, how could he still have a chance? What should I do now? Should I shake the cup open on purpose? But will this make him think that I'm deliberately seducing him? I'm only wearing my underwear now. He'll take advantage of me in an instant. So painful, so conflicted. Roughly 10 minutes later, Qin Guang didn't even wash his hair since Qin Guang was much faster in washing himself. He also learned from Sun Xiaoxuan. He first put on his clothes and lay down on the other bed. He turned his head and saw Sun Xiaoxuan next to him looking at him with a red face and a nervous expression. Qin Guang's worry about the operation finally relaxed a little. He also threw out his pants from under the quilt, took off his clothes and pretended to cover his shoulders with his hands. Pervert. Don't look. Pfft. Sun Xiaoxuan laughed foolishly. I won't look at you. There's nothing to look at. I've already seen you when you were swimming. Okay, go to sleep. You were almost asleep just now. Why are you awake now? After joking with Sun Xiaoxuan, Qin Guang reminded her to go to sleep. After all, girls were not like men. Staying up late had a greater impact on their bodies. Qin Guang turned off the light but didn't close the window. The bright moonlight outside shone through the window, so the room wasn't very dark. Qin Guang lay on the bed and couldn't close his eyes. He stared blankly at the shadow of the chandelier on the ceiling, as if he could see the shadow moving with the moon. The night was as cold as water and his mind was empty. After waiting for about 10 minutes, he suddenly heard Sun Xiaoxuan's voice. Why aren't you sleeping yet? The voice was close at hand. Qin Guang turned his head and found that Sun Xiaoxuan, who had transformed into a silkworm cocoon, was leaning sideways. Her head was less than a foot away from him, and she was staring at him with a pair of big eyes. Under the moonlight, Sun Xiaoxuan's eyes, which were bigger than ordinary people's, were particularly bright. I can't sleep. Why? I'm scared. I've never been so scared before. Auntie will be fine. You've worked so hard. If God really has feelings, he will also be moved by you. Sun Xiaoxuan's voice sounded very gentle. At this moment, all the thoughts she had just had already disappeared. She had never seen Qin Guang in such a weak state until today. Qin Guang nodded heavily. Yes, it will be fine. If God really dares to treat me like this, I will tear down the sky when I become an immortal in the future. Sun Xiaoxuan thought he was joking. I will tear it down with you. Hey, if you want to tear it down with me, you have to sleep well first and take care of your body. You're going to have dark circles under your eyes. But that won't look good. No. Mr. Class Rep still looks good with smoky makeup. Qin Guang grinned. After chatting with Sun Xiaoxuan for a while, he felt a lot better. At this time, there was a sudden noise coming from the corridor outside. It seemed that a lot of people had suddenly come. Qin Guang knitted his brows. He couldn't be that unlucky, right? This situation often happens on TV. Mother ***, don't joke around. I'm in a bad mood right now. What he feared had come true. After a while, there was a sudden knocking on the door. It was very urgent and angry. Open the door. Crack down on prostitution. Chapter 277. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was sleeping on the other side, was so scared that her face turned pale. Qin Guang reacted quickly and jumped up. While putting on his clothes and pants under the moonlight, he turned his head and said to Sun Xiaoxuan, "Put on your coat and pants." Damn it. Damn it. Today's matter might be more troublesome. After all, he and Sun Xiaoxuan were not husband and wife. They didn't have a marriage certificate. If they encountered unreasonable law enforcement officers, they might not be able to reason with them. Of course, strictly speaking, it didn't seem very reasonable. The knocking on the door became more urgent. The manager outside seemed to be trying to explain, but it was useless. Sun Xiaoxuan also rushed out of the bed in a panic. She didn't care that her pair of white legs were seen by Qin Guang with the moonlight. She quickly sat on the bed and put on her pants and coat. However, she didn't have time to put on her bra. After thinking for a while, she put her bra under the pillow. Qin Guang looked at Sun Xiaoxuan. When she was almost dressed, he said, "Don't be nervous. We are not afraid of the slanderous. I will deal with it. You sit here and don't move. Don't be afraid." Sun Xiaoxuan nodded heavily. At this time she also calmed down a little. She thought to herself, no matter what, I can't be a prostitute. If they are angry, they can go to the hospital next door for a checkup. I am a real virgin. No matter what, they couldn't sweep the head of a virgin, right? Qin Guang stood in front of the door and took a deep breath. If it was a blessing, it wouldn't be a disaster. If it was a disaster, it couldn't be avoided. Don't worry so much. I will deal with it when it comes. After unlocking the door, Qin Guang didn't even have the time to open it himself. The lock was twisted from the outside and the door was pushed open. 3 uniformed policemen stood at the door with stern expressions. Beside them was the manager, who had an anxious look on his face. Qin Guang calmly stuck his head out and quickly looked outside. The commotion this time seemed to be quite big. There were policemen everywhere in the corridor. There were more than 10 of them, and they were knocking on the door everywhere. The room directly opposite seemed to have been swept to completion. The door was open, and a man wearing only briefs was squatting on the ground with his hands around his head. A seductive woman wrapped in a bath towel squatted beside him, completely ignoring the fact that the towel was about to fall to the ground and her chest was exposed. "What are you looking at? Hands overhead. What down? I really thought it was some big shot, but it turned out to be just a little brat. He didn't learn good things at such a young age, and he only knew how to do lowly things. You're actually playing the adult game of buying sex?" The young policeman in front of Qin Guang suddenly said. The manager on the side helplessly turned his head to the other side because his obstruction just now seemed to have backfired. Alas, if I had known that this was such a big deal, I wouldn't have tried to cover up for the young couple in this room. Now, it was obvious that the young couple were not that kind of people, but it had set the mind of the anti-pornography police in advance. Qin Guang turned his face and looked at the policeman in front of him, who seemed to be about the same age as him, and then looked at his badge number. It had letters, so he was an assistant policeman. This kind of person might be even more difficult to deal with than the official police, especially because the manager's help had aroused the other party's jealousy. In addition, the opposite room had been swept to completion, so he was even more certain that he couldn't escape, so his attitude was very bad. If he remembered correctly, last year there was a famous person with the surname Shui, and he was also a well-known entrepreneur. Didn't he get swept to completion? But Qin Guang didn't intend to do as he said. Squatting down with his hands around his head was something that only people who had a guilty conscience would do. He was upright and had a clear conscience, so why would he do this kind of thing? Wouldn't that be tacitly admitting that he was the target of the anti-pornography police? What about Sun Xiaoxuan's dignity as a girl? So Qin Guang decided to block the door and not move. Squatting down with your hands around your head is something that only criminals do. I'm sorry, but I'm not a criminal. You really have a background? You're so arrogant. You think I can't deal with you? The young assistant policeman's face was stiff. Still stubborn? As he spoke, he took a step forward and made a sign that he was going to make a move. Qin Guang didn't panic at all. You have to deal with the real criminals, not me. Besides, I don't have any background. I'm just a family member of an ordinary patient in the opposite Wujing City Hospital. You guys can do whatever you want, it has nothing to do with me. Lies. Keep lying. Get out of the way. You want to go in and check. Qin Guang didn't budge an inch. Get out of the way. On the other side, the hotel manager saw that a fight was about to break out, so he quickly came over to mediate. Mr. Chen, they're just doing a routine check. It's fine, it's fine. If they really fight, it'll be troublesome. Qin Guang nodded slightly. He felt that the manager was right. He turned around and walked inside. He couldn't let Sun Xiaoxuan be humiliated like the real prostitute in front of him. He felt more at ease standing next to Sun Xiaoxuan. The 3 assistant policemen entered in a line. The one in front saw Sun Xiaoxuan and became smug. You're still denying it? You're still quibbling? This isn't a... Shut up. Are you King blind? Which eye of yours thinks that I look like a prostitute? Which eye of yours thinks that my girlfriend looks like that? I'm warning you. Watch your mouth. Qin Guang had a lot on his mind recently. This assistant policeman was getting more and more impolite. It was like touching his reverse scale, so he immediately started scolding. The young assistant policeman was reined on, and he couldn't react for a moment. Instead, the other man next to him stood up with an ugly expression. ID. I don't care what your relationship is. Take out your ID first. On the other side, Sun Xiaoxuan saw that Qin Guang seemed to want to confront these people. She became anxious and grabbed Qin Guang's hand. Qin Guang, take out your ID. Qin Guang took a few deep breaths to control his emotions. He was too lazy to look at the faces of these young assistant policemen, so he just handed his ID to Sun Xiaoxuan. At the same time, Sun Xiaoxuan took out her ID and handed it over. At the same time, she also took out her student ID. Officers, my boyfriend and I are students at Gokyo University. My boyfriend's mother is being treated in the hospital across the street. We are really the family of the patient across the street. We're not that kind of people. At this time, Sun Xiaoxuan also followed Qin Guang's words and said that she was his girlfriend. A young man and a young woman lived together in a hotel. It would be a lie to say that there was no relationship. It was better to say that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. Students at Gokyo University? The officers checked Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan's ID, and then glanced at Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan. They were indeed a bit like students. When Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan entered the university as freshmen, they changed their household registration and files. They also applied for new ID cards at that time. The address on the ID card was really the campus of Gokyo University in the city. Sun Xiaoxuan's student ID card clearly stated the university and major. Chapter 278. The manager quickly chimed in. Not bad, Mr. Qin and his girlfriend are really students. It's not that. A couple had already been caught in the anti-pornography operation today. The manager couldn't allow Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan to be caught again. First, the hotel would definitely be heavily fined, and second, they would offend the black gold card user. Unexpectedly, the man who had been given the cold shoulder by Qin Guang suddenly flipped out. He rushed forward and lifted the blanket to look for evidence while saying, "Just because you say you're a student, that's it? Who knows if your student ID is a fake one from Nine Caves Bridge? Besides, aren't there really students selling their IDs?" Before he finished speaking, he pulled the pillow again and Sun Xiaoxuan's bra was underneath it. Flap. Qin Guang slapped his grandson's face and pressed one hand on the pillow. He looked at him coldly. "Your mother is the one selling herself. Looking for a beating? Does it feel good? Is there a point? Are you asking for a beating?" He was really angry. He couldn't let this be Tsich pull out Sun Xiaoxuan's bra and expose it in public. Sun Xiaoxuan saw Qin Guang's actions and immediately understood what he was thinking. He was extremely touched but also worried. Finally, he made a move. At this moment, Qin Guang was like an enraged lion, just like when he beat up Pan Jiang. F***ck. How dare you hit me? Assaulting a police officer? The man who had his ears ringing from Qin Guang's slap took a while to regain his senses. His two colleagues were already dumbfounded. Strictly speaking, they had already restrained themselves today. After all, even if they found out that there was nothing wrong with the other party during the anti-pornography operation, the other party would still be polite. Entering a door with a bad attitude was also a way to solve a case. The stronger they appeared, the easier it was for the criminal to break down and give themselves away, leaving the real client with no place to hide. Apart from that, even if it was a real couple, not many people would bring their marriage certificate when they went out. However, the more they asked, the clearer the investigation would be. Unfortunately, the same method might work on other people, but it was like igniting a barrel of dynamite when it came to Qin Guang. Of course, the police officer who was hit shouldn't have said that a student was also selling himself. He even tried to pull the pillow, but Sun Xiaoxuan's bra was underneath it. This completely infuriated Qin Guang. Qin Guang had been restraining his temper ever since these people entered the door. Others thought he was very arrogant, but he still couldn't control himself. In the end, he still couldn't control himself. When the policeman who was beaten reacted to the situation, he immediately flew into a rage. If it was said that he was afraid of Qin Guang's background earlier, now that he's a student, it also proved that Qin Guang didn't have any backing even if he wasn't a criminal. Thus, he couldn't allow his face to be swept away. He jumped up and stepped on the mattress, intending to kick Qin Guang to the ground. However, Qin Guang stretched out his right hand and grabbed the man's pants in midair. His left hand reached out from the other side and caught the man's calf. He exerted force with both hands and forcefully stopped the man's forward momentum in midair. Then he pressed down with both hands, causing the man's waist to hit the edge of the mattress. He was lucky that this was a mattress. If it had been a hard object, his waist might have been broken. However, it was still not easy. He held his waist and cried out. The other two saw that things were getting out of hand, so they didn't dare to follow up. Instead, they quickly helped their colleague back to the door. Things had escalated to this point, and there was an official police officer leading the team today. It was better to let the captain solve the problem. Temporary workers like them were also troublesome. If they fought, they wouldn't be able to get anything out of it, and most importantly, their chances of winning weren't high. Qin Guang's simple move stunned them. The three of them retreated to the door of the corridor and shouted, "Captain! There's an arrest. Assaulting a police officer." Sun Xiaoxuan suddenly pulled Qin Guang. "Qin Guang, calm down. Your mom is going to have surgery tomorrow. Let's talk things out with them." Qin Guang shook his head fiercely. "No. Damn it, these bastards are too much. We're innocent. Why are they framing us?" He was an old virgin, yet he was treated as a client. He couldn't tolerate it. "Oh yeah, there's something else." Qin Guang leaned over and lifted the pillow. He grabbed Sun Xiaoxuan's bra and quickly stuffed it into Sun Xiaoxuan's hands. A girl's private things shouldn't be seen by others. I was worried about this just now. Quickly hide it in your sleeves. Huh. Sun Xiaoxuan's pale face suddenly turned as red as an apple. He was dumbfounded. "Not only did you see it, but you're also holding it in your hands." His fingers seemed to be on the soft cloth inside my bra. Qin Guang didn't realize what was wrong. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't take it, so he became anxious. There was a commotion at the door. It seemed like they called the captain. Without waiting for Sun Xiaoxuan to react, Qin Guang quickly stuffed the white bra into his sleeves and said proudly, "Now no one will see it." "Indeed, no one will see it. Because you took it." "Qin Guang, what should we do?" Sun Xiaoxuan was too embarrassed to come back now, so he had to change the topic. Qin Guang snorted. "What do you mean, what should we do? We're not afraid of making a big deal out of this. We're university students, not kids." Two university students were accompanying their family members in surgery outside the hospital, and they got beaten up by the police in the name of anti-pornography. Why should we be afraid of them? But a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Sun Xiaoxuan was still afraid. Qin Guang glared at him coldly again. "What are you afraid of? I don't believe they'll pull out a gun. But if we fight, I can take them down even if all of them work together. Whoever dares to jump in front of me, I'll beat him to death. Let's fight first and talk later." Qin Guang had the intention to kill anyone who stood in his way. He had already made up his mind that if he really made a big deal out of this, he would go to his godsister Wu Tong for help. He didn't believe that the second generation of a government official couldn't handle this. Besides, he and Sun Xiaoxuan didn't break the law. At this time, the voices outside finally became clearer. "What are you doing? Why do you have to check when the other person has brought out his student ID? Are you crazy? Are you looking for trouble?" A sharp woman's voice came from the door. It seemed to be their captain lecturing the three police officers. "But he assaulted the police." The woman's voice continued, "That's a different matter. Another student's relationship doesn't fall under the scope of anti-pornography. Are you trying to use a chicken feather as a token of authority? Are you trying to make my job more difficult? If it's an overlapping law enforcement, then do it properly. Are you trying to embarrass the Wenxing branch on purpose? We didn't offend you, right? When Qin Guang heard the woman's voice, his anger instantly went to zero. Washing the motor. Overlapping law enforcement? Wenxing branch? Wu Tong. This is Wu Tong's F*King voice. I can recognize it even if I turn into dust. The flood has broken the temple of the Dragon King. Chapter 279. Old Master Guang, who had been so arrogant just a moment ago, was starting to panic. I used you as my savior and shield, preparing to slap your face and show off to my heart's content, but in the end, you turned out to be the boss of the big villain. How embarrassing. What do you want this old man to do? He didn't know why, but when his godsister saw the scene of him and son Xiaoxuan getting a room together, his heart suddenly became restless. Forget it. I heard that he's an expert. It's not a bad idea for me to go and meet him. I haven't had the time to properly practice recently. Wu Tong, who was outside, was also in high spirits. She rubbed her palms together and prepared to go all out. She had to teach her own people a lesson, but she also had to win back her face. Then she turned a corner and walked in aggressively. Immediately after, she and Qin Guang stared at each other, both dumbfounded. Wu Tong couldn't wrap her head around it. Why did she run into this guy in a place like this? She turned her head to look at the situation in the room and saw Sun Xiaoxuan wrapped tightly in her coat, standing timidly in the corner of the room. Qin Guang was standing in front of her like an eagle protecting a chick. There seemed to be no need to explain what was going on. Combined with what the assistant police had said, Wu Tong could roughly guess that Qin Guang and his classmate had gotten a room together and were caught red-handed by the city's sudden raid today. Didn't he injure Pan Jiang because of this girl called Sun Xiaoxuan? With the nature of these assistant police officers, especially today's group operation, they would definitely be even more arrogant. Wu Tong naturally understood this. She also knew that Qin Guang had a bad temper and couldn't tolerate the slightest grievance. Back then he had seriously injured his classmate because of a disagreement. So a commotion was inevitable. Wu Tong was able to analyze everything clearly. But an inexplicable anger surged from the bottom of her heart. She felt that there was no reason for it, but she just couldn't stop it. Qin Guang had saved this girl like a hero, so it was natural for the girl to return the favor by marrying him. But why was it that when she saw this scene she was so angry that she wanted to rush up and beat him up? When Qin Guang first saw Wu Tong, he felt a little awkward, but he soon calmed down. From what she had said before she came in, it seemed that today was really a big operation that involved the whole city. She, a police officer from the Wenxing branch, had been transferred here to carry out the mission. In any case, since Wu Tong was the leader of the team, today's matter should be considered settled. Although it was a little troublesome, it was good to resolve the matter satisfactorily. Just as Qin Guang was thinking about this, he suddenly saw a strange emotion in Wu Tong's eyes. What is this? Very angry? Are you F*King kidding me? Aren't you my good sister? Why do you have such an expression? Qin Guang didn't understand and Wu Tong didn't understand either, but she couldn't restrain the anger in her heart. I clearly recognized him as my younger brother. Even if I was obsessed with him that day, I would always think about him in my heart from time to time. But I have clearly transformed this emotion into the feeling between siblings. What the hell am I angry about? Wu Tong didn't dare to speak. She was afraid that what she said would become a question between lovers. Qin Guang was also waiting for Wu Tong to express her opinion. Because of the inexplicable silence of these two people, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became strangely heavy. What happened to Captain Wu? I heard that there was a situation here. Just then Wang Long appeared from outside the room again, shouting at the top of his lungs. Poor Wang Long. Originally he was the old police officer who guided Wu Tong. It had only been a few months, but Wu Tong's position had flown over his head and became the captain of the team. The duo still hadn't changed, but Wang Long had bitterly changed from a senior to a younger brother. He even changed his address to Captain Wu. This was the biggest difference between a second generation and a poor civil servant. Of course, no one could deny that Wu Tong really dared to fight, and her professional ability was strong. The branch bureau promoted her to captain because she easily won the freestyle championship in the police system division competition last month, so it was justifiable. Then Wang Long saw Wu Tong and Qin Guang looking at each other in the room, and then he saw Sun Xiaoxuan standing behind Qin Guang like a wronged daughter-in-law. Wang Long sucked in a cold breath and broke out in a cold sweat. He shrunk his neck and wanted to slip back. Something big happened. The anti-pornography campaign caught the adulterer in bed. Faster see. The female police Tyrannosaurus in the anti-pornography campaign caught the adulterer. Once the situation got out of control and this tragic fact was exposed, not only would there be a big incident now, but tomorrow's news would also sweep the 5 capital police system. Wang Long was so flustered that he almost couldn't stand still. He regretted coming over and asking more questions and getting involved in this matter. Yes, as early as when Wu Tong loved Qin Guang to the point of going through fire and water in the Wenqing branch, regardless of the views of the secular world, the people in the Wenqing branch were basically sure that Qin Guang, a student from Gokyo University, and their beautiful police comrade were already set in stone. Later on, Wu Tong helped Qin Guang run errands a few times to resolve the Pan family's problems. She even pulled her father from the police station to Wujing University to support her. At that time, everyone was even more certain in their hearts. When they discussed the relationship between Qin Guang and Wu Tong in private, they had already called him brother-in-law and then brother-in-law. Wang Long was no exception. Wu Tong had been furious many times because of this, but the more furious she was, the more her flushed expression when she was angry made it seem like she was hiding something. Later she was too lazy to deny it. Perhaps she secretly thought that it was good for them to misunderstand her. Anyway, she wouldn't lose a piece of flesh. After saying so much, it was not difficult to understand the panic in Wang Long's heart. Finally, the assistant policeman who had been knocked down by Qin Guang in 2 moves broke the silence. He rubbed his waist with one hand and moved in front of Qin Guang. He pointed at Qin Guang's nose and roared fiercely, "Boy, you bought sex and violently arrested me. Assaulting a police officer. Obstructing official business. Come with us." As he spoke, he reached for Qin Guang's wrist and wanted to grab him first. Although he knew that this boy was difficult to handle, the assistant policeman also knew that the person behind him was the recently popular freestyle champion of the police world. He was not someone to be trifled with, so he regained his courage. Bought sex? Qin Guang's pupils shrank, especially when he felt Sun Xiaoxuan's hand pinching the back of his clothes. He was so angry that he subconsciously pulled it, which made Qin Guang's anger that he had just suppressed ignite again. He waved his hand violently and slapped Sun Xiaoxuan's face again. Sun Xiaoxuan covered his face and stepped back. This time, Qin Guang's slap was more solid and his face was swollen. You hit me? You're a man, can you not talk like a sissy? If you don't know how to talk, then talk less. Otherwise your mouth will be used to get slapped. Qin Guang. Enough. Wu Tong finally spoke. Chapter 280. Seeing that Wu Tong didn't seem to notice him and was planning to leave quietly, Wang Long, who had already walked back to the door, shivered. This is bad. The female T-Rex is going to flip out. It wasn't easy for her to endure until now. It's so hard for me. God, please teach me, what should I do now? I, Wang Long, have handled so many cases and faced so many vicious criminals. I've never been afraid. But I've never encountered this kind of situation. One wrong step and I'll be smashed to pieces. The 3 assistant police officers who led the way were even more embarrassed than Wang Long. From the moment Wu Tong entered until now, they hadn't said Qin Guang's name at all. The man and woman's ID cards were still in their pockets. But why did Captain Wu of the Wenqing branch know the boy's name so easily? From her tone, she seemed to be very familiar with the boy. Captain Wu's background was already explained to them by the branch chief before today's operation. His background was very powerful. Since you saw it, they went too far. I'll accept whatever they said, but I can't stand it when they said that about Sun Xiaoxuan. Qin Guang spread his hands and said. Wang Long and the 3 assistant police officers almost fainted, but they all had different thoughts. Wang Long thought, it's over. This brother-in-law is too bold. He was caught red-handed, but he still put on an appearance of protecting the mistress and not allowing her to suffer any grievances. This is bad. Also, do they address each other like this? Sis. That's right, Wu Tong is definitely older than Qin Guang. It's quite suitable. *CK, what time is this? What am I still thinking about? The other 3 assistant police officers were even more annoyed. What did we just hear? Sis. *C. Who exactly did we accidentally provoke? If we want to die, no one can stop us. Captain Wu. Calm down, calm down. Wang Long finally plucked up his courage and strode forward. His act of sacrificing his life for righteousness had worked, drawing everyone's attention to him. Swallowing his saliva, Wang Long suddenly stood between Qin Guang and Wu Tong. Captain Wu, don't be impulsive. The other side has already finished their investigation. It's time to take a statement. Why don't you go and take a look? There seem to be 2 more people upstairs. There's a big operation in the city today. Official business is more important. Wang Long was reminding Wu Tong. Qin Guang didn't quite understand why Brother Wang Long was so nervous. He was a little surprised. Brother Wang Long, you're here too. That's right. It's good that all of you are here. Please help me explain. Why can't you sweep my head in order to crack down on prostitution? Can't we university students fall in love freely? Wang Long wanted to slap himself in the face, but in his heart he gave Qin Guang a big thumbs up. He was the strongest adulterer in history. I submit. Then Qin Guang didn't know that danger was coming. He smiled and put his hand on Wang Long's shoulder. He said to Wu Tong, Sister, I know I was wrong. It was wrong of me to hit your colleague in front of you. Police officers are good public servants who serve the people. I apologize to this brother. Please watch your words in the future. Then I won't disturb your official business anymore? Wang Long was completely dumbfounded. This bastard actually asked him to leave. He followed my words and asked me to leave. Congratulations, brother-in-law Qin Guang. You're the champion of this year's death-seeking competition. On the other side, Wu Tong's breathing became more and more rapid. She was indeed angry, but she also knew that she was performing official business. It wasn't her private time. She couldn't do anything that would cause misunderstandings at this time. But no matter how much she comforted herself, Wu Tong couldn't control her anger when she saw Sun Xiaoxuan's aggrieved expression behind Qin Guang's back. At this moment, Qin Guang's nonchalant attitude was clearly telling her that she had seen him getting a room with another girl. It's fine, right? You won't mind, right? In any case, it has nothing to do with you, right? It doesn't matter. But I'm angry. I'm a woman. I don't need a reason to be angry. At this time, Sun Xiaoxuan finally plucked up the courage to poke her head out from behind Qin Guang. She wanted to help, but she was too nervous. She subconsciously hugged Qin Guang's arm. Officer Wu, this is really a misunderstanding. Qin Guang and I are just an ordinary boyfriend and girlfriend. We're not the targets of your anti-pornography campaign. Wang Long's back was facing Qin Guang. He stared at Wu Tong's expression from beginning to end to prevent her from going berserk. When Sun Xiaoxuan said this, the last string in Wang Long's heart was about to break. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. He saw with his own eyes that Wu Tong's face suddenly flushed. It wasn't shyness, but pure adrenaline that was about to explode and hot blood rushing to the brain. The powder keg was about to explode. Qin Guang also paid attention to the changes in Wu Tong's expression. He was puzzled at first, but then his mind flashed. He seemed to have understood something and his heart skipped a beat. Even if he didn't understand women, he could still vaguely smell the gunpowder coming from Wu Tong's body. Something's wrong. It seems probably the after-effects of Lioli's super deep hypnosis are still stubborn. My cheap sister still has feelings for me. Everything that had happened since he met Wu Tong flashed through his mind at lightning speed. Wu Tong had violated the rules to help him settle the Pan family's troubles. She had made a phone call to get her father to back him up. After that, the two of them had sat by the Mingyuan lake at school and played around. She said she would help him investigate Fatty Wang's background. Before she left, she stepped on his foot and then ran away like a happy little sparrow. Her every frown and smile at that time suddenly flashed through Qin Guang's mind in slow motion. She's really interested in me. No wonder. Otherwise, with her identity, why would she treat me so well? Why did she take the initiative to say that she wanted to recognize me as her younger brother? Just because I'm handsome? My personality is likable? They've only met a few times. Although the old man is confident that he's a good person, his personality and charisma can't be this strong. Listen to me. We're staying here for a reason. My mother. Qin Guang came forward and finally wanted to explain something. Take him away. Wang Long. Take Qin Guang back to assist in the investigation. Wu Tong waved her hand fiercely and shouted. Then she turned her face away without looking at Qin Guang and added, I know that Qin Guang is not a target of the anti-pornography campaign, but we can't let this go. I have to answer to my colleagues. Wang Long. Take him away. Huh. Qin Guang and Wang Long were stunned. Qin Guang frowned fiercely. His mother was going to have surgery tomorrow morning. How could he be taken away at this time? On the other side, Wang Long reacted quickly. He was secretly glad that Wu Tong had finally held back her temper. He only thought that if he took Qin Guang away now, it would be better to solve the matter between the couple in private. Anyway, he would pay attention to them when the time came. As long as no one died, it would be fine as long as they weren't seen as a joke by outsiders from other branches. Wang Long pulled Qin Guang's shoulder and whispered in his ear, Qin Guang, don't talk back to Captain Wu. She's angry now. If you have something to say it in private. It's not good to make a scene in public. Chapter 281. Qin Guang struggled a little but he couldn't break free. Wang Long was really using all his strength. On the other side, Wu Tong was still looking at him with a livid face. Don't go overboard. Qin Guang was a little anxious and wanted to say something. Before he could finish his sentence, Wang Longmeng covered his mouth and pushed him out. Wang Longmeng whispered into his ear, Hi brother. I beg you. I don't know what's going on with you two, but you're fighting at the head of the bed and reconciling at the end. Please stop it. Let's go back first. I'll go with you to the branch here and we can discuss everything slowly. Faster, thief. Husband and wife. Fighting at the head of the bed and reconciling at the end? When did I become this kind of relationship with Wu Tong? Wang Long's information was enough to stun Qin Guang. Could it be that she had secretly announced that I'm her man? No wonder she's so angry. Qin Guang felt that he had grasped the key to the problem and he felt even more pain in the ass. I'm so King innocent. It's none of my business. If it were another situation he might still not give face to Wu Tong, but Wang Long was right. She was now carrying out her duties and he didn't know what she was thinking. If they were to get into a fight in public he wouldn't know how things would turn out. Sai, forget it, I'll accompany her first. Later I'll explain to her about my mother's matter, and then I'll explain to her that I slept in the same room with Sun Xiaoxuan today for no reason. With her personality she probably won't be so unreasonable, right? Qin Guang still maintained his utmost patience and restraint with Wu Tong. On the other side, Wu Tong saw that Qin Guang had finally been escorted away by Wang Long. The anger in her mind gradually subsided. Seeing Sun Xiaoxuan's flustered and bewildered appearance, she gradually felt ashamed. She wanted to explain something to Sun Xiaoxuan, but she didn't know where to start. Even she felt that it was strange. Team Wu. No. The assistant police officer on the side said something that was extremely inappropriate. It's all because of these three idiots that I ran into this mess. It's fine if I don't know anything. Why should I interfere with Qin Guang's private life? Wu Tong immediately vented her anger on these three people. She resisted the urge to beat them up and just punched the wall with her fist. A loud bang resounded. Have you checked all the rooms? Get lost. When the three of them ran away scared witless, Wu Tong took a deep breath, squeezed out an awkward smile and comforted Sun Xiaoxuan. Qin Guang assaulting a police officer is an established fact. Although I know him I can't be biased. But don't worry, I'll just call him back to criticize and educate him. Have a good rest first. After some thought Wu Tong added, but he won't be coming back tonight. Sun Xiaoxuan wasn't a silly fool like Qin Guang, and women understood women the best. A long time ago when she saw Wu Tong clinging to Qin Guang like an octopus, she knew that Wu Tong was a potential competitor. Today, after witnessing Wu Tong losing control step by step, Sun Xiaoxuan was even more certain of her conjecture. She was really afraid that Qin Guang would be locked up for an entire night, and it would be terrible if Auntie Feng didn't come back tomorrow. If she fanned the flames and made Officer Wu lose control even more, she would go back to Qin Guang and continue to cause trouble. With Qin Guang's current state of mind and personality, he would definitely hate her completely. Officer Wu, Qin Guang and I don't have that kind of relationship. Today's situation is really special. Although she knew that it was a good opportunity to kick her competitor out, Sun Xiaoxuan's kindness prevented her from doing such a thing. She just wanted to explain things clearly, and she regretted holding Qin Guang's arm just now. She knew that her action just now caused Wu Tong to misunderstand. Wu Tong waved her hand tiredly, and before Sun Xiaoxuan could finish speaking, she turned around and walked out. Sun Xiaoxuan, don't let your imagination run wild. I still have things to do outside, so I'll be going now. Before she finished her sentence, the door had already slammed shut. Sun Xiaoxuan hurriedly chased after her and opened the door. Although it was noisy outside, Wu Tong was nowhere to be seen. It had only been a few seconds and she was gone. Sun Xiaoxuan stomped her feet anxiously. She wanted to chase after her, but she didn't know where she was. Her chest was empty, and her girl's shyness prevented her from stepping out of the door. In the end, she could only return to her room and lock the door again. Sun Xiaoxuan sat on the bed and sighed. How could this be? Did I cause trouble for him? Qin Guang must be annoyed to death right now. Sun Xiaoxuan fell back on the bed and stared at the ceiling in a daze, feeling extremely helpless. She crawled under the covers and gradually felt sleepy. It was almost 2 in the morning and she really couldn't hold on any longer. She fell asleep without taking off her pants. Before she fell asleep, a vague thought popped up in her mind. My bra. He stuffed it into his sleeve and took it away. After Wu Tong walked out of the room, she didn't immediately care about the cleaning work in the other rooms. Instead, she flashed to the fire staircase next door and slid down the corner of the wall while hugging her legs. She also looked at the cement stairs with a blank expression. After a long time she murmured, "Is my brain stuffed with mud? Wu Tong, what the hell are you thinking?" When the cleaning finally came to an end, Wu Tong, as the captain, led the team back to the border area branch office. Wang Long had already dragged Qin Guang to the office for almost 2 hours, finished 3 packs of drunkard's peanuts, drank 6 cans of beer and more than 100 yuan of barbecue, and watched an international A-level friendly match together. Qin Guang didn't look like he was here to assist in the investigation. He seemed to be Wang Long's friend who was invited to watch the game. Since he was already here, Qin Guang knew that he couldn't leave without clearing things up with Wu Tong. Anyway, he couldn't sleep at night and this place was not far from the hospital and the hotel. He simply chatted with Wang Long and watched the game peacefully. He planned to not sleep tonight. As long as he could get back in time before his mother went into the operating room tomorrow morning. Of course, when he was lying in the hotel, Sun Xiaoxuan, who was close at hand, did give him a lot of pressure. Now that he could legally slip away and there was an acquaintance to watch the game, drink, eat peanuts and eat barbecue with, it felt good. Thinking about it carefully, even if he was lying in the hotel bed, his mind would not be able to turn over the mountain of tomorrow's surgery. It was good to be able to chat with others, watch the game and distract his attention. He didn't scare himself and always think about nonsense. The 2 men made a profound comment on the England and Italy teams, and Qin Guang told Wang Long about his appearance in the hotel. After listening to it, Wang Long was also speechless about Qin Guang's encounter, and his heart relaxed a little. This brother-in-law did not seem to be a playboy. There was indeed a reason for today's incident, and there was still a need to reconcile when Wu Tong came over. In addition, Wang Long naturally expressed his concern for Qin Guang's mother as usual. Qin Guang only sighed and believed Wang Long's words that good people were blessed by heaven. Finally, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, Wu Tong came back. The game had just ended and the 2 sides had tied. She looked a little tired. It was the first time that she represented the Wenxing branch in such a big operation in the city. In the middle of it, Qin Guang's matter was interspersed, and her right-hand man Wang Long was sent away to take Qin Guang to the branch office. He was very busy. Wang Long hurriedly stood up and planned to help Qin Guang explain. He understood Qin Guang's feelings. He was worried that if Wu Tong acted too aggressively, it would make things worse. Chapter 282. Wu Tong looked at Wang Long's expression and guessed what he wanted to say. She then turned to look at Qin Guang, who was sitting on the sofa with an expressionless face. The anger that had gradually subsided rose from the bottom of her heart again. Captain Wu. Wang Long was about to speak. Wu Tong waved her hand fiercely. Don't speak for him. I have said before that he should change his bad temper. Today he actually attacked a police officer in front of us. If I don't correct him, my name is not Wu Tong. She didn't give Wang Long a chance to say another word. She passed by him like the wind and stood in front of Qin Guang. Looking at the trash can full of drunkard's peanut packaging, barbecue sticks and 6 cans of beer, Wu Tong's face completely darkened. I worked so hard to clean up outside, but I asked you to come here to be educated, but you became eating barbecue and watching football? Taking a few deep breaths, she calmed her mood. Qin Guang. Come here. I have something to say to you. Wu Tong suppressed the anger in her heart. She also knew that this place was someone else's branch and she couldn't let others see her as a joke. She walked to the interrogation room. Wang Long came over eagerly. I want to help you say something. Qin Guang was also expressionless at this time. He just waved his hand and said, Thank you, Brother Wang Long. It's okay, I will go and talk to her myself. If it were another time, Qin Guang would indeed be very patient to explain to Wu Tong, and even use the long-lost pestering skill to make her obedient. After all, he owed her a lot of favors. Since he owed her a favor, he would feel weak in his heart. Hence, Qin Guang's patience with Wu Tong was also much better than others. Moreover, Qin Guang also knew that although she was a bit irritable, she was a good person. But today was different. This day was too special. Tomorrow morning was the most important event in Qin Guang's life so far. Even if the sky was falling, he had to give in to his mother's surgery. Qin Guang had already wasted 2 hours here and he hadn't had a good rest until now. Qin Guang was already very impatient. When he thought of tomorrow's surgery, the uncertainty made him even more anxious and uneasy. On top of that, Qin Guang had drunk 3 tins of beer, which boosted his courage. Even though he understood Wu Tong's misunderstanding, he still felt indignant for himself. Even if you really like me, I don't like you. We don't have that kind of relationship at all. What right do you have to throw a tantrum at me? I don't care if you talk about our relationship in your own place, but why are you giving me that attitude again and again? What are you doing? Do you really think of yourself as my woman? Have I given my consent and approval? When have I ever taken advantage of you? So what if I really slept with Sun Xiaoxuan? Do I need to ask for your permission? What's more, Sun Xiaoxuan and I aren't even close. Are you done yet? Just like that, Qin Guang walked into the interrogation room with an imposing manner. Wu Tong, who was next to him, slammed the door shut. She then looked at Qin Guang, who was standing by the door, and sneered. Qin Guang also stared at her. Are you done? Wu Tong said angrily, What do you mean I'm done? You're just a little brat, right? Not only did you bring a little girl to a hotel, but you also hit the police? Do you really think that with me covering for you, you can do whatever you want in Wujing City? What's the difference between you and Pan Jiang, that kind of rich second generation? What did you say to me before? What are you doing now? Qin Guang spat at the side. Didn't you hear how unpleasant that person's words were? Does he mean that I deserve to be wronged? Sun Xiaoxuan was called a prostitute and I have to swallow my anger? Even if I don't know you, I will still beat him up. Do you believe me? No matter what the reason is, it's wrong to hit people. Wu Tong said forcefully. What a joke. If I can tolerate this, am I still a man? As the two talked, the atmosphere became heated. Wang Long, who was eavesdropping outside, was anxious, but there was nothing he could do. Wu Tong snorted. Yes, I know that you and that little girl named Sun Xiaoxuan are a couple. She is very important to you and you can't let her be wronged, right? Qin Guang was so angry that he laughed. He waved his hand and said, Think what you want. There is nothing between me and her. Clatter. As soon as he finished speaking, Sun Xiaoxuan's white bra fell out of his sleeve and fell on the ground between the two of them. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. How could I forget that this thing was in my sleeve? You call this nothing? Wu Tong looked down at the white bra. Her brain was stiff at first, but she quickly reacted. She was so angry that her face turned red. Forget it. Qin Guang just quietly bent down and tucked the bra back into his sleeve. He didn't even have the mood to explain. What the f***ck? Just as he was about to prove his innocence aggressively, this thing was actually thrown at him? Even if I am the best talker in history, Zhang Heng, I can't do anything. What else can I say? Say my ass. Forget it. I can't be bothered to argue with you. I'm leaving. Qin Guang was about to open the door. He didn't want to explain, couldn't explain, and didn't need to. He was too lazy to care about what Wu Tong thought. He planned to leave first. Stop. Wu Tong raised her hand and pressed the door lock. You can't leave. Qin Guang turned around and looked at Wu Tong. Why? You're interfering with official business. You've violated public security regulations. I have the right to detain you. Wu Tong felt extremely wronged. Up until now, Qin Guang hadn't explained anything to her. However, she was in no position to take the initiative to uncover the matter and ask what she wanted to say. She never thought that from the beginning to the end, whether it was Qin Guang, Sun Xiaoxuan or even Wang Long, they all wanted to explain to her. It was she who didn't give them the chance to speak, which led to the current situation. Qin Guang took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed his anger. When he looked at Wu Tong again, there was no longer any familiarity in his eyes. There was only a strong sense of distance and unfamiliarity. He finally understood. Perhaps the aftereffects of his second-generation rich sister's severe hypnosis had remained until now. As a result, she really did have feelings for him. That was why she became like this today. Dealing with her like this is too strenuous. I'm tired. He used to think that dealing with her was easy and pleasant, but now it seemed that he had thought too simply of her. After all, she was the daughter of an aristocratic family. No matter how well she hid her big missy temperament, it would sooner or later erupt and see the light of day. If she really had such a temperament and didn't care whether it was right or wrong, and insisted on making life difficult for him like a crazy woman, then this friendship would be broken. As for the favor he owed her, he would just give her a few 100,000 yuan and treat it as paying it off. With such thoughts in his mind, Qin Guang was attacked by the alcohol and anger at the same time. His thoughts were a little out of control. Qin Guang also misunderstood Wu Tong. He thought that Wu Tong didn't want to hear an explanation at all. In fact, Wu Tong's brain had short-circuited before. Now she was extremely eager for him to say something that could make her feel at ease. Even if it was to lie to her that there was nothing between him and Sun Xiaoxuan. Even if she had clearly seen the bra, as long as Qin Guang was willing to make it up, no matter how absurd the lie sounded, she would be willing to believe it. However, it was already too late. Enough, it's really enough. Once his mind made a decision, when Qin Guang spoke again, his voice was no longer angry but cold. Wu Tong's whole body quivered. She vaguely realized Qin Guang's plan, and her expression became flustered. Chapter 283. Wu Tong swallowed her saliva and said nervously, Qin Guang, I'm a little angry. Qin Guang shook his head slowly. I can probably guess what you're angry about. I originally wanted to explain it to you. But is there really a need to explain it now? Say it. I'll believe whatever you say. At this time, Wu Tong was no longer the captain of the Wenxing branch. She was just a frightened woman. Well, I'll tell you. My mom is lying in Wujing City Hospital now. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, she will go into the operating room for a kidney transplant. Do you understand? I have to go to the hospital at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I was called to this place by you. I can't go back to the hotel until now. How do you think I should feel right now? I don't know what your position is, but you seem to care about my relationship with Sun Xiaoxuan. Then I'll tell you. She is my squad leader and she came here to help. Because there were no extra rooms in the hotel, she could only squeeze into the same room as me. It was a double bed and it was an unfortunate coincidence. Do you believe it? This bra was originally hidden under the pillow. Your assistant policeman wanted to lift the pillow, so I beat him up. Do you believe it? Then I didn't want the girl's private clothes to be seen by others, so I stuffed it into my sleeve. Do you believe it? Forget it, it's up to you if you don't believe it. That's it. I'm done talking. After Qin Guang finished, he pushed the dumbfounded Wu Tong away, opened the door of the interrogation room and walked out quickly. Didn't you say last time that your mother just had a small problem? How could that be? Wu Tong suddenly understood the reason why Qin Guang was so angry and out of control. Qin Guang turned around. Because I wasn't familiar with you at the time. There was no need to tell you in detail about this family's private affairs. I don't need someone I'm not familiar with to help me share my pain. By the way, I do owe you a favor. I'm very sorry about this. I'll find a way to return the favor. Goodbye. With that, Qin Guang strode away, not giving Wu Tong any chance to speak. Wu Tong's face turned pale as she watched his figure disappear out of the branch office in an instant. When Wang Long saw this, he knew that things were developing in the worst direction, so he hurried over. Wu Tong took a deep breath and almost roared in front of everyone, "You must know Wang Long, right? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Wang Long had a bitter look on his face. "I wanted to tell you a long time ago, but I didn't have the chance to." Wu Tong's body almost went limp. She leaned against the wall and rubbed her head in pain, but she didn't have the courage to chase after Qin Guang. Even if she did, she didn't know what to say to Qin Guang. Her previous anger came without reason, and now her disappointment was also without reason. She was very confused and upset, but she didn't want to admit that she really liked Qin Guang. Wu Tong locked herself in the break room of the branch office. She tried to call her best friend Tang Ying, who was in Wujing City Hospital, but Tang Ying's phone was turned off. Wu Tong threw her phone on the coffee table, lay down on her back and curled up on the sofa. She muttered to herself, "How did it become like this? I'm really a terrible person. I'll find a suitable opportunity to apologize to him. He should be able to forgive me, right? He's also very angry. If it were me, I'm afraid I'd be even angrier than him. He was so angry that he even said that he didn't know me well." This was really depressing to the point of being powerless. When Qin Guang returned to the hotel, it was already 5 o'clock in the morning. He tiptoed back to his room and carefully placed the bra next to the sleeping Sun Xiaoxuan's pillow. He gently lay down next to him with his clothes on. The alcohol mixed with drowsiness and he could finally sleep for an hour. Before falling asleep, Qin Guang still remembered Wu Tong's pale face with regret before he left, and he faintly felt a little uncomfortable. He thought to himself that she might really be very sad, but he could only sigh in his heart. Sometimes life is quite helpless. Although he knew that she might not have any evil intentions, he couldn't help but gradually become disgusted with her. It's good to sour my relationship with her as soon as possible. I should keep my distance from people like her in the first place, and at the same time I should cut off my relationship with her as my godsister. That way I won't get into more trouble because of Lioli's overly effective divine hypnosis. This godsister is actually not that cheap. Her background is a little too big. Indeed, someone like me shouldn't be trying to get close to her. Maybe if I put down my pride and coax her a little, she would be able to calm down? Actually, she's quite easy to fool, but what's the point of doing this? I really don't have the mood to think about these things right now. Or even if I manage to coax her today, it will become like this sooner or later, right? The next day, Sun Xiaoxuan's alarm rang on time at 6 o'clock in the morning. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Qin Guang lying next to her, and the boulder in her heart was instantly lifted. Sun Xiaoxuan's face was flushed red as she took her legs off Qin Guang's bed while trembling with fear. Her face was extremely red. She didn't know how she slept last night. As she slept, she moved to face Qin Guang's side. Then, just like how she usually hugged a doll in the dorm, she hugged Qin Guang, who was wrapped in a cup, tightly as if he was a doll. She even put her legs on his body. Fortunately, this idiot was sleeping like a log and didn't notice. Sun Xiaoxuan quietly turned off the alarm and washed up even more carefully, not making the slightest sound. Seeing that Qin Guang was still sleeping like a log, Sun Xiaoxuan thought for a moment and didn't rush to wake him up. Instead, she pulled out the room card and went downstairs. After eating breakfast in the dining room, she brought 2 buns, a box of porridge and an egg upstairs. After placing the breakfast on the bedside table, Sun Xiaoxuan sat on the edge of the bed and quietly looked at the sleeping Qin Guang. When he thought about what happened last night, he felt a faint sense of grievance, but it was more of a sweet feeling. He's always like this, protecting me like an angry lion. I don't know if he explained it to Officer Wu. Sun Xiaoxuan's mood was a bit complicated. He hoped that Qin Guang and Wu Tong would really break up because of this, but he also felt that this misunderstanding was caused by him. He felt ashamed, and he also felt that Qin Guang had been mentally and physically exhausted for the past 2 days. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't help much when he came over and instead caused trouble for him. How about I go back and explain it to the armed police officer? Sun Xiaoxuan buried the faint unwillingness in his heart and made up his mind. The 2 of them were scheduled to go to the hospital at 6:30 a.m. Sun Xiaoxuan waited for another 5 minutes until 6:20 a.m., but Qin Guang still hadn't woken up. He had to wake him up. Sun Xiaoxuan pushed Qin Guang's body and said softly, "Wake up. Qin Guang, wake up." It was no use. He only closed his eyes at 5 a.m. It had only been an hour, so how could Qin Guang wake up so easily? Sun Xiaoxuan pushed him harder, but he still didn't move. He was really sleeping like a dead pig. Why is he sleeping so soundly? What should I do? Sun Xiaoxuan moved her face in front of Qin Guang and looked at the guy with the dark circles under his eyes. He was worried. She looked straight at Qin Guang and her mind was suddenly emptied. He looks so good when he's sleeping. He looks good no matter how I look at him. I really want to look at his face like this for the rest of my life. For some reason, Sun Xiaoxuan opened her eyes wide and moved forward bit by bit. Her lips touched his lips like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, and then she shrank back like a startled rabbit. Her face was extremely red, and the burning sensation spread from her neck to her ears, then to her face. Her heart was pounding, and she looked like a child who had secretly eaten a snack. He really slept like a log. Sun Xiaoxuan moved forward again and whispered in his ear, "Chen Guang. Like you." Then Chen Guang slowly opened his eyes. "What are you doing? My ears are itchy." Get up, get up. It's 6:30 a.m. Sun Xiaoxuan ran outside. "I'll wait for you downstairs. Eat your breakfast and go downstairs." It's weird. Chen Guang rubbed his eyes in a daze and turned his head to look at the hospital building outside the window. His mind gradually flew to his mother's side. "I've been waiting for this day. If something really happened to my mother, I'll really tear the heavens apart." Chapter 284. Wu Tong lay in the waiting room of the branch office until 6 o'clock the next morning. She was woken up by her ringtone. When she opened her eyes, she saw that Tang Ying had finally replied. "What's up, D*****, woman? I'm busy. I'm going into the operating room soon. I turned off my phone last night. I have a major operation today, so I need to rest." Wu Tong dialed Tang Ying's number. Tang Ying seemed to be having breakfast. Before Wu Tong could speak, Tang Ying said, "Let's make a long story short. I have a major operation today and it's a life-threatening one. I'll call you when I'm done." Tang Ying's mouth was stuffed with porridge buns and her words were muffled. She looked very anxious. Hearing that Tang Ying was really busy, Wu Tong knew that her idea of confiding in her best friend was completely dashed. She sighed. "Since you're busy, forget it." "What's wrong? Why are you sighing? This is not like the Wu Tong I know." Tang Ying and Wu Tong had known each other for more than 10 years. They were not biological sisters, but they were closer than that. Hearing Wu Tong's tone, Tang Ying knew that she had something on her mind. Wu Tong did not want to disturb Tang Ying's surgery by talking about her troubles, so she changed the topic. "By the way, what kind of surgery are you going to do? Why do you look so serious? Is it a complicated condition?" On the other side, Tang Ying gulped down a big mouthful of porridge. "It's not complicated. I've done it a few times before, so I'm familiar with it. It's a kidney transplant. But this is my first time being the chief surgeon since returning to China, so I can't take it lightly." Wu Tong's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly remembered that Chen Guang had said last night that his mother would be having a kidney transplant in Wujing City Hospital today. Could it be so coincidental? But on second thought she realized that it was probably true. A kidney transplant was not a minor operation like an appendectomy. It might not even happen once a month. Is your patient called Feng Rong?" Last time when Chen Guang beat up Pan Jiang, Wu Tong had looked up his family's ID file, and she had already memorized the names of Chen Guang's parents. Tang Ying was shocked. "How did you know?" Wu Tong laughed. "Who do you think I am? Is there anything in Wujing City that I don't know?" Tang Ying rolled her eyes. She had finished her meal, so she put down the bowl and said, "I don't want to waste time with you. I'm off. Talk later." Tang Ying hung up the phone, got up, put on a white coat and walked out of the dorm. Since the day before yesterday, Feng Rong had been under 24-hour surveillance. Now she was finally going to the battlefield. Wu Tong hung up the phone and she felt her head was going to explode. It was only 6 o'clock in the morning, and there were only 2 colleagues on duty in the branch office. As for Wang Long, he had returned home last night when he realized that he couldn't help much. Wu Tong drove her Wrangler out of the police station's parking lot and looked at the Wujing City Hospital not far away. She hesitated for a while before she drove back to Wenqing town. At this moment Qin Guang was in a fit of rage and had many things to do. So Qin Guang definitely wouldn't be in the mood to listen to his explanation. When the time was right, he would make an excuse to visit Tang Ying in the hospital and create an opportunity for them to meet. At that time, even if Qin Guang is still mad at me, Tang Ying is the chief surgeon who cured his mother. I should at least give her some face, right? Wu Tong knew Tang Ying's medical skills, and she didn't think anything would go wrong with Tang Ying as the chief surgeon. However, when she thought about the fact that she needed Tang Ying to mediate between them, she regretted it. This is all my fault. My brain must have short-circuited. Qin Guang didn't care about what Wu Tong was thinking. He quickly got up, washed up, ate breakfast and went downstairs with his bag. Sun Xiaoxuan stayed downstairs for a long time. He repeatedly scrutinized Qin Guang's movements, and after confirming that Qin Guang didn't notice his little tricks, he gradually calmed down. The two went straight to the hospital without delay. Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to help a lot, but after they arrived at the hospital she could only watch from the side and couldn't help. Qin Guang and Qin Guoli had a lot to sign, so Feng Rong didn't allow outsiders to approach. But Sun Xiaoxuan didn't expect to be of any help. She was satisfied just to accompany Qin Guang and wait for her outside. Time flew and it was 9 o'clock. Qin Guang and Qin Guoli watched Feng Rong being pushed into the operating room. The door of the operating room was slowly closed. The father and son looked at each other and saw the deep worry in each other's eyes. Qin Guang, Uncle Qin, it will be fine. Dr. Tang is very famous. I found a lot of information about her on the internet. She is really famous. Sun Xiaoxuan walked over with his phone. Qin Guang and Qin Guoli knew that it was useless to worry, so they simply sat down together after looking around for a while. 4 hours passed by slowly amidst the torment and waiting. The 4 hours were neither fast nor slow. It started at 9 o'clock in the morning and ended at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. During this period, Qin Guang and Qin Guoli stood up and looked outside the operating room many times. They knew that it was useless and they couldn't see anything, but they couldn't control their mood to do such a meaningless thing. Qin Guang was actually quite sleepy at this time, but he couldn't close his eyes at all. He stared at the operating room door. Qin Guang, don't be afraid. It will be fine. Sun Xiaoxuan whispered to him. Qin Guang nodded and then shook his head. I know, but knowing it doesn't mean I can do it. During this period, the door opened several times, and the assistant came out twice to ask Qin Guoli to sign. When he signed, Qin Guang and Qin Guoli were constantly asking questions. However, the assistant was well versed in communicating with patients. Hence, he only managed to calm the two of them down, but he didn't make things clear. Tang Ying, the only person who could tell the truth to Qin Guang, was the chief surgeon inside and had no time to care about what was happening outside. Lu Fei, Zhong Bai, Wang Qing and the others arrived at about noon. They brought lunch for Qin Guang and the other two and then waited here with them. Finally, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but the door was still not opened. At this moment, the hearts of Qin Guang and his son started to rise. Sun Xiaoxuan subconsciously grabbed Qin Guang's hand. He was also so nervous that his knuckles turned white. The usual kidney transplant surgery only took 4 hours, and it would only be slower if the surgery was not going well. The father and son looked at each other. Qin Guoli said, "There won't be any problems, will there?" Qin Guang shook his head. "No, it shouldn't be. This is the best kidney source." At 1:30, the door of the operating room finally opened. Tang Ying, who looked exhausted, pulled off her mask as she walked out. Qin Guang stood up and ran to Tang Ying. Tang Ying looked up at him and grinned. The surgery was very successful. Along with Tang Ying's smile, the sky and the earth suddenly became clear. The heavy pressure that had been weighing on Qin Guang's heart for nearly a year disappeared at this moment. Got his eyes. Hearing Tang Ying's words and seeing the smile on her face, Qin Guang and his son felt that their hearts were about to fly. Chapter 285. But you guys can't go in yet. The patient hasn't completely woken up from the anesthesia, so you'll probably have to wait for a while. After that, there'll be 24 hours of special care. When it's about time, I'll inform you guys to go in. Tang Ying spoke again and patted Qin Guang's shoulder heavily. She then bade farewell to Lu Fei and the others before turning around to head for the office. She was a little tired and needed to rest. After taking 2 steps, Tang Ying turned around again and saw Qin Guang and Qin Guoli hugging each other, tears streaming down their faces. The shoulders of the father and son twitched wildly, but they suppressed their voices, not daring to disturb the operation room with loud noises. This past year, the 2 men in this family had shouldered far too much pressure, and they finally vented it all at this moment. They were free. Tang Ying looked at the father and son from afar and couldn't turn around for a long time. When she suddenly came back to her senses, she discovered that there were 2 clear lines of tears on her face. Sun Xiaoxuan looked at Qin Guang and Qin Guang from the side and couldn't hold back his tears either. Qin Guang could only grit his teeth and bear it no matter how hard it was. He never complained to anyone and always put on a cheeky smile in front of others to hide the enormous pressure on his heart and shoulders. This was because he firmly believed that as long as he faced it with a smile, no matter how hard his fate was, it wouldn't force him to the end of the road. Thank the heavens he endured it. This was because hidden under the mischievous appearance was a body that was as hard as iron. Wearing this armor made of iron, it was naturally able to withstand the thousands of cuts of life. In the most difficult time, Liuli appeared in his life with the transcending Holy Grail. Although there were many bumps until now, he still gritted his teeth and endured it with Liuli's help. Lu Fei stood to the side and looked at Qin Guang's almost tearful appearance. She recalled his incomparably domineering and cold-hearted attitude when he was racing. At this moment, the two completely different figures gradually overlapped. A strange emotion surged in the depths of her heart. Sun Xiaoxuan was in an even worse state. If it weren't for the many strangers around them and the fact that Qin Guang and his father were hugging each other and crying, she wouldn't have been able to muster up the courage to do so. Otherwise, she would have rushed forward and hugged Qin Guang tightly. Finally, after waiting for more than 2 hours, Qin Guang and Qin Guoli went in with Tang Ying's permission to have a short chat with Feng Rong. The family of three sighed again. On the other side, Lu Fei and Zhong Bai left first because of their respective companies' matters. Wang Qing's physical condition was not very good, so he went back to rest first. Sun Xiaoxuan originally wanted to stay with them, but Qin Guang asked her to go back to school. There was a final exam at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Qin Guang knew that if he didn't study for the exam he would definitely die. There was no need for Sun Xiaoxuan to accompany him to fail the exam. She didn't want to break her golden record of never failing a subject in university for 4 years. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't care so much about it, but Qin Guang said that his mother must be out of danger now, and there was no possibility of any relapse or rejection, so he had to drive her away. Tang Ying was very puzzled by Qin Guang's absolute confidence. She found an opportunity to quietly call him to her dormitory and asked in private, "Why do I feel that you are more confident than me? Although the donor's kidney is indeed a perfect match, it's my job as a doctor to make a judgment. How can you be so sure?" Tang Ying couldn't help but be curious. If it were any other patient's family, they would be most concerned about the immune rejection at this time. Qin Guoli was almost the same. However, ever since the surgery was completed, Qin Guang didn't ask about it from beginning to end. He only expressed his gratitude to her. How could Qin Guang tell her that this kidney was obtained by using the power of fate of the heavenly Holy Grail? Its compatibility was absolutely the best in the world. There was absolutely no way that there would be any problems. Unless the heavenly Holy Grail was filled with water. But that was obviously impossible. He only scratched his head and grinned. Intuition. Intuition my ass. Forget it, I won't argue with you. Anyway, I've done my duty as a friend. Now tell me, how are you going to make up for my shattered self-esteem? Of course, Tang Ying was referring to the fact that Qin Guang didn't want her to be Feng Rong's attending physician. Qin Guang was also embarrassed. I've apologized to you so many times. Why aren't you letting me off the hook? How about this, I'll treat you to a meal some other day. Tang Ying spat at him and tapped his forehead with her finger. Do you think I'm only short of money for a meal? That's right. After all, you're a tycoon who lives in a duplex. So if our Dr. Tang doesn't mind my young teeth, how about I give my body to you? Qin Guang moved his face forward with a smirk. The distance between the two suddenly became very close. Tang Ying, who was sitting on the chair, looked up at him. Her mind subconsciously recalled the scene when she pinched the thing in his pants. Her face turned red, but she immediately reacted. She sneered and lowered her head to look at Qin Guang's crotch with disdain. It's not that I can't accept your young teeth. After all, although this doctor is older than you by a few years, I'm quite good at taking care of myself. I won't age much faster than you. It's just that if this problem of yours isn't cured, I will never consider you. Hey, you know what I mean. As Tang Ying spoke, a meaningful smile appeared on her face. Qin Guang gasped. He originally wanted to tease this drunk lady, but he didn't expect to be teased instead. Why does she still remember that? Can we still be friends? Hey, let me put it this way. I'm doing your mother's surgery. Maybe you think I'm doing you a big favor, but I don't think so. Your mother is my patient. It's only natural for a doctor to treat a patient. It doesn't count as me repaying you for saving me from being molested. Anyway, I've made up my mind. For a boy of your age, this problem is indeed difficult to talk about. You must be too embarrassed to look for a doctor. I can understand that. So leave your disease to me. Promise me don't give up on treatment, okay? As Tang Ying spoke, she stood up and patted Qin Guang's shoulder with her right hand. She lowered her head and looked at him with a burning gaze. I really didn't. Qin Guang was about to cry. He was in a good mood today, so much so that he was a little too arrogant. He actually dared to tease this lady. Now he really regretted it. He wished he could eat his own tongue. Trying to explain is equivalent to covering up. I understand. It's also an illness if it's too short and it can be cured. Alright, I'll stop bickering with you. You won't be able to enter the ICU for the next 2 days. I think you should go back to school and take your exams. You won't be of much help here anyway, Tang Ying said as she walked out of the dorm room, leaving Qin Guang alone in the lonely wind. After she opened the door, she turned her head and looked at Qin Guang with a smile. Out of the blue, she said, "You've changed." Chapter 286. After Tang Ying walked far away, Qin Guang picked up the heavenly holy grail and drank a mouthful of tea. He lowered his head and caressed the cup, thinking to himself, perhaps she's right, I have indeed changed. In the past, no matter how much he fooled around, there would always be something hidden in his heart that he couldn't get rid of. But from today onwards, Qin Guang knew that he was different from the past. Perhaps he could put it in another way. Could he return to the person he was a year ago? Living a carefree life of the rich generation? But when he thought of this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. You can be smug all you want, but don't blame this empress for not saying the ugly words first. The power of destiny has already completely helped your mother, and your punishment realm may descend at any time. At this moment, Liuli's voice rang out in his heart. Hey, what do you mean by descending at any time? Can you give me a more precise time? What exactly was the realm of punishment? Can we give you some information in advance? I'm so freaking panicking. Qin Guang asked in a panic. Liuli's figure gradually appeared in his mind. This woman was really frugal. She still didn't wear the lustrous feather dress, and even the white mist that was used to cover her body was reduced to a shrunken version, only covering the most important parts of her body. Even her belly button was exposed. Clearly, after being taken advantage of by Qin Guang last time, she had decided to give up. He shrugged. I can't. Why? Because I don't know what it will be, so I can't tell you either. Fastrasy. Are you King kidding me? A dignified god emperor is so weak? Don't waste your breath. In any case, just deal with the situation as it comes. I can give you a little reminder. Think about it, what is this so-called fate? You touch the fate of your loved ones and obtain benefits. Then how do you think fate will punish you? The more you gain, the more you will lose. You can slowly ponder over this sentence. This old lady won't be accompanying you. After saying that, Liuli's figure gradually faded, intending to escape. Hey, what are you going to do? Qin Guang stopped him. Liuli smiled proudly. As the financial steward of the savior, I have to learn some knowledge. You mortals are really interesting. It's just the principle of bartering, but you call it commerce. There are so many tricks in it. It's really broad and profound. I've never seen anything so interesting in the 10 billion years I've lived in the endless god realm. It's the best way to pass the time. This emperor is leaving. Lori was right. Given her status in the endless divine realm as the daughter of the master god of chaos, she could have anything she wanted. Even if she occasionally made a deal, it would be nothing more than using something stolen from the master god of chaos to trade for something else. Business was a new field of study for her. This time she really ran away. Qin Guang's face was ashen as he held the cup. He felt his heart ache when he thought of the 183 million in his UBS account. This feeling was basically the same as opening a chicken farm at home and having 700 or 800 weasels living on the mountain next door. It was impossible to guard against and completely hopeless. Should I secretly turn all of it into cash and bury it in the ground? Just as this thought emerged in his mind, Liuli's voice immediately came again. It's useless even if you turn it into cash. I have ways to make you obediently submit. I advise you to be sensible and not force me to use my ultimate move. Fastrasy. A naked threat. I can't do anything about it. My family's cheat is so high-end. He's actually threatening me. This is so King ridiculous. Right, I admit it. I can indeed return to my old self from a year ago. A carefree, poor second generation. Rich second generation, whatever, just let it go with the wind. When Qin Guang returned to the school dormitory, it was already past 6 in the evening. Lin Jingwei and the others had just finished their exams and were rushing back. Qin Guang also called Sun Xiaoxuan, Gao Ya, and Zhou Jingxi and booked a table at the elegant pavilion outside the school. Before coming back, he had said that he would treat these few people who knew that he had made a fortune and were the closest to him. At the same time, he would treat it as a celebration of the great success of his mother's surgery. In addition, Qin Guang also planned to drag the whole class to a food stall in Wenqing town after he finished the remaining 4 environmental physics and modern chemistry exams the day after tomorrow. There was no other way. That was how confident he was when he was rich. It was better to spend some of it before he squandered it all for Liuli. It would be too sad to return to being a pauper without enjoying the life of a rich person. Oh right, since Liuli was burning at least tens of thousands of phone bills every month, he might as well go to the business office later and slap her for $1 million in phone bills. That's right, I'm such a tycoon. I feel uncomfortable if I don't top up $1 million in phone bills every time. Spending money that's about to go down the drain doesn't hurt at all. Oh right, the little girl in the business office in town seems to be quite pure. If I top up $1 million in phone bills with her, she will definitely get a lot of commission, right? My sales will also soar, right? I wonder if I can seduce her into throwing herself at me? I'm looking forward to it just thinking about it. Don't talk about feelings with me, just come for my money. Love me hard. As he thought about it, he was almost drooling. Do you guys think Brother Guang's illness is acting up? Why don't we take him to the school hospital? I'm getting goosebumps from seeing him like this. At that moment, Bai Nyangzi's voice rang in his ears. Qin Guang came back to his senses and saw the guy's big face inches away. He quickly got up and pushed him away. Qin Guang said angrily, "Show some respect to a billionaire. Otherwise, I'll make sure that you have no place in the environmental protection industry." What the F***ck? So what if you're rich? I recently started a new book on Qidian Women's Channel. It's very popular and I'm planning to switch to being a writer. Bai Nyangzi was fearless. On the other side, Lin Jingwei was furious. You be *T. Did you write the book you asked me to recommend to my cousin a few days ago? The Billionaire Young Master's Cruel Spoiled Wife. Please Love Me 1001 Times? Blarg. What a scary title. Qin Guang and Xiong Jinka couldn't hold it in anymore. Bai Nyangzi's invincible title caused them 10,000 points of damage. Damn it, this grandson has finally embarked on the road of no return. This dead sissy that can't be saved. I'll pay you 100 yuan. Please drag him out and chop him to death. Qin Guang decided to use money to talk. The 4 of them made a ruckus in the dormitory until Gao Ya called to hurry them up. Qin Guang was actually very happy. He knew that the 3 grandsons in his dormitory were not that kind of ordinary people. Even if they saw him make a fortune in Hong Kong, they could still gather together and laugh happily after coming back. Money was a worldly possession. It was hard to find a good brother in life. In other words, the money that Luli was eyeing was a worldly possession. Brother Guang, you're so rich now. Why don't you help me invest? Let me tell you, you only need to invest 100,000 yuan and help me get an average of 10,000 subscriptions for 3 months. When I become a goddess in the female market, I'll give you half of the copyright fee for the TV series adaptation of my book. I guarantee that you'll earn 2 million yuan. Well, except for Bai Nyangzi. He didn't need a brother like this. Qin Guang and the other 2 kicked Bai Nyangzi, the new goddess in the female market, into the flower bed. The 3 of them said in unison, "We'd better break off our friendship with him." Unfortunately, Zhou Jingxi, who had come to pick up Bai Nyangzi, saw the 3 of them bullying him. She rushed forward and taught Qin Guang a lesson. "What are you doing? Why are you bullying Bai Fan?" Zhou Jingxi had the air of a counselor. Qin Guang pointed at Bai Nyangzi and said, "He's been writing a web novel recently. It's for the female market. The title is Billionaire Young Master's Cruel Doting Little Wife. Please Love Me 1001 More Times. What do you think, Teacher Zhua?" Zhou Jingxi took a step back. "Please kick him further away. You bunch of inhumane people. You're killing the dream of a young literary man." Bai Nyangzi roared angrily as he watched the 4 of them walk away. Chapter 287. Qin Guang hadn't been so relaxed in a long time. In the private room of the Qinya pavilion he even lifted his ban on alcohol and had all kinds of drinks with Bramble. They had just gotten to know each other. Why wasn't Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi there? That was because the two of them pretended to be dead on the table not long after the fight started. Only Xiong, a fierce tiger by the Mudanjiang River, could keep up with Qin Guang's rhythm. Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to persuade Qin Guang to drink less, but Zhou Jingxi pulled him back and whispered, "It's okay. He's happy today, so it's okay to drink a little more. He's been holding these things in his heart for a whole year. Now that he's finally free, it's better to drink to release his mood. Otherwise it's very tiring to keep it bottled up all the time." Sun Xiaoxuan nodded, thinking that teacher Zhou understood people better. Zhou Jingxi just smiled as she watched Qin Guang and Xiong compete with each other. She was also filled with emotion. Who would have thought that this inconspicuous guy could drive the scum Wang Ren out of school, shoulder the burden of his family, and quietly leave a miracle in Xiangjiang that countless people would look up to? Gao Ye quietly pulled on Sun Xiaoxuan's sleeve and whispered, "Look at the way teacher Zhou looks at Qin Guang. Something's wrong." Sun Xiaoxuan rolled his eyes at her. "Don't talk nonsense. Why did you draw a turtle on Lin Jingwei's face?" "I've been learning how to draw comics recently. I saw that his face is quite big, so it's easy to draw." Xiong felt like he had run into a ghost today. Before Qin Guang's family went bankrupt, the four of them often went to the school to drink beer and barbecue. If he remembered correctly, although Qin Guang's alcohol tolerance was good, it was only slightly better than Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi. As the tiger of the northeast, it was not difficult for him to take down 3 people by himself. It was just that it was very tiring to be responsible for carrying 3 people at a time. In the past year, because of Qin Guang's family matters, everyone rarely came out to drink. Qin Guang himself almost didn't drink because he had to drive. Xiong never had the chance to show off his superiority in drinking. But what was going on today? Was this guy on steroids or something? His alcohol tolerance was completely unreasonable. Did he become a leaky spoon or a bottomless pit? Cup after cup he simply couldn't stop. However, he didn't get drunk even after 1,000 cups, and he didn't collapse no matter what. Xiong felt that he could not hold on any longer, but he felt that as the god of wine, the more he was in a life-and-death situation, the more he couldn't be a coward and he couldn't stop it. Poor Xiong didn't know that Qin Guang had been reborn since a month ago. As the second officer of the An Royal, a veteran pirate famous in the Sea of Time, apart from being able to fight without fear of death, how could his life as a pirate not be stimulated by alcohol? The Sea of Time from the 8th tier of the Heavenly Holy Grail was just that useful, and the effect was just that obvious. Apart from practicing English well for Qin Guang and leaving behind a body of pirate fighting skills, he also inherited the alcohol tolerance that he had trained by drinking big mouthfuls of hard liquor at sea. It was just that Qin Guang didn't drink much in the past. Finally, Xiong Jinka's head tilted to one side and he fell down. Qin Guang laughed like a victorious general and pointed at Xiong's head. "Poor weakling. Fight with me. Practice for another 20 years. Save it. You only know how to drink and you don't even know how to pick up food. Won't the table full of dishes be wasted? Won't your stomach hurt?" Zhou Jingxi said as she picked up a piece of crystal twice-cooked pork and put it in Qin Guang's bowl. Although Sun Xiaoxuan told Gao Ye not to talk nonsense, he immediately stuffed a fat crystal pork knuckle into Qin Guang's bowl. At this time, Qin Guang was actually a little drunk, and he couldn't react to the secret confrontation between Sun Xiaoxuan and Zhou Jingxi. He just ate happily. When they paid the bill and were ready to leave, Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi, who had raised the white flag at the beginning, came back to their senses. Obviously, these 2 guys had rich experience in pretending to be dead at the table. Poor Lin Jingwei, who had been sober the whole time, was forced to endure Gao Ye's graffiti until Gao Ye painted 8 turtles all over his face. It was true love. When the 7 of them returned to the academy, Qin Guang took the lead with Sun Xiaoxuan and Zhou Jingxi standing by his side to prevent him from suddenly going crazy when he's already 80% drunk from going crazy. Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi carried Xiong Jinka, who was as heavy as Mount Tai with 1 arm on each side. They couldn't wait to throw him to the side of the road. Sun Xiaoxuan pulled Qin Guang, who had tripped with his left foot, and said anxiously, "Slow down, Qin Guang. You are drunk." "Drunk? Don't joke, I'm not drunk." This little bit of alcohol is nothing. Back then when I was on the Xianxia I drank more than this and I could still rush to someone's boat and kill him. Qin Guang waved his hand, refusing to admit that he was drunk. He picked up his phone and called Wenwen. He really wanted to share his feelings with her at this time. Usually he would be worried about contacting Wenwen in front of Sun Xiaoxuan and Zhou Xian. But now he didn't think about it at all. It was a pity that Wenwen had already returned to Beijing. Her final exams had ended 2 days earlier and she had left last night. It seemed that something urgent had happened at home. Qin Guang felt exceptionally regretful. Luckily, before he hung up, Wenwen had added that he would look for her after the results of the CET4 were out. She would not go back on her word. At this moment, Qin Guang's mood instantly turned better. What did you bet with Wenwen? Sun Xiaoxuan, who was beside him, popped his head over and asked. Qin Guang chuckled. Heaven's secrets must not be revealed. The next 2 to 3 days were perhaps the most relaxing and enjoyable days Qin Guang had spent in the past year. Unlike the others who still had to prepare for the environmental physics and modern chemistry foundation exams, Master Guang was decisive from the beginning and did not expect to pass. The kneeling posture of failing the exams was also quite straightforward. This kind of carefree feeling of surrendering before the battle had even begun was something that his comrades who were barely on the verge of failing the exams could not be envious of. TV. We're still sprinting tirelessly, can you not turn on the game? Lin Jingwei and the others protested in all sorts of ways. Qin Guang simply shook his head. Do you guys want me to turn on the stereo and share the happy gaming experience? If you guys plan to take the makeup exams with me when school reopens, I don't mind you guys playing games with me. After waiting for about 2 days, Feng Rong was successfully transferred back to the intensive care unit. Just as Qin Guang had expected, there was almost no immune rejection at all. Even Tang Ying sighed that she had never seen a kidney transplant with such a high compatibility rate. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was a miracle in the history of medicine. In this regard, Qin Guang only smiled and did not say anything. The more amazed the others were, the more scared he felt. The more you gain, the more you lose. These words that Lu Li left for him gradually shrouded his heart in the past 2 days. What exactly will happen? What exactly is waiting for me? I'm so confused. Just as he sat in the ward and let his imagination run wild, an unexpected person walked in. It was Wu Tong. She strode inside and said carelessly, I say, where are you? Tang Ying, you damn girl, are you done? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Chapter 288. Wu Tong strode into the ward, calling Tang Ying's name. In her heart she muttered, Brat, this is a chance encounter that I created with my own hands. You can't stop me from taking advantage of it, can you? Then, just as she had expected, Qin Guang, Tang Ying and Feng Rong all turned their heads to look at her in confusion. Didn't I tell you to wait for me in the office? What are you doing in the ward? Tang Ying frowned. He felt very puzzled. Wu Tong had come to the hospital to look for her more than once, but she had never barged in when she was making ward rounds with patients. Did she have something urgent to do today? As she spoke, Tang Ying came over and pushed Wu Tong out. She turned to Qin Guang and his mother and said, Excuse me, this is my good friend Wu Tong. Then Tang Ying immediately whispered in Wu Tong's ear, Go to my dormitory first. I'll be there in a few minutes. I don't know what's so urgent about you. Don't come to my patient's room. However, Wu Tong used a little strength to stop Tang Ying. It was not easy for her to barge in. How could she be pushed away so easily? Then she turned to look at Qin Guang with a very complicated expression. There was the surprise of a chance encounter, a hint of surprise and a little bit of anxiety. She said, Qin Guang, why are you here? In such a short moment she had perfectly acted out her original intention of looking for Tang Ying, but in fact she was here to meet Qin Guang by chance. With such acting skills she could win the Oscar for Best Actress and the Palme d'Or. Qin Guang was really fooled by her. There was a touch of embarrassment on his face. He forced a smile and said, Hi. He didn't expect that Wu Tong would appear in his mother's ward. What he said to her that day was quite excessive, and it was clear that he wanted to cut ties with her and become a stranger. Qin Guang felt that with Wu Tong's intelligence, it was impossible that she didn't understand his unspoken words. He also knew that with her proud personality, it was almost impossible for her to take the initiative to apologize to him. Over the past few days, Qin Guang occasionally wondered if Wu Tong would come to Wujing City Hospital or the school to look for him. However, she didn't move at all. There was a slight sense of disappointment in her heart, but more than that, she was relieved. Qin Guang told himself that since he had made the decision at that time, he shouldn't regret it. It was a good thing for both Wu Tong and himself. When he realized that Wu Tongzhen was still trapped in the aftereffects of Liuli hypnosis, Qin Guang made up his mind. It was not that he thought highly of himself, but he simply felt guilty towards Wu Tong. This kind of relationship was too unfair to Wu Tong. Qin Guang couldn't get over it. If he accepted this kind of relationship, he would be the most despicable person. As long as he drifted further and further away from her, she would eventually be able to forget him and free herself from Liuli's emotional control. When that day came, they would become strangers. If they could still be friends, it would be good to get to know each other again. If they were destined to become strangers, it would be considered as an explanation to her. However, Qin Guang never expected that he would reunite with her like this. It was completely unexpected. You guys know each other? Tang Ying, who was also kept in the dark, first looked at Qin Guang, then turned to look at Wu Tong. Wu Tong nodded. Yeah, of course we know each other. Qin Guang also nodded and stood up. Hello, Sister Wu Tong. This is my mom Feng Rong. Mom, let me introduce you. This is Wu Tong, my... Before Qin Guang could finish his sentence, Wu Tong had already come up to him and patted his shoulder. She was completely different from how she was when she was quarreling with Qin Guang a few days ago. Hello, Auntie Feng. Qin Guang hasn't had the time to tell you an uncle yet, right? He acknowledged me as his sister some time ago. Before the dumbfounded Qin Guang could react, Wu Tong turned around and smiled at Tang Ying. Hey, what a coincidence. Tang Ying, Qin Guang is the younger brother that I've just acknowledged. Then Wu Tong grabbed Tang Ying and turned to Qin Guang. You might not believe it, but Miss Ying and I have known each other since elementary school. We are best friends. Qin Guang did not finish his sentence. Wu Tong immediately turned to Feng Rong and smiled sweetly at her. If I had known that Auntie Feng was recuperating here, I wouldn't have come empty-handed. It's all Qin Guang's fault for not telling me the truth. Feng Rong was also very confused. However, Wu Tong's valiant appearance in her police uniform left a very good first impression on her. As it was inconvenient for her to get up, she nodded and smiled at Wu Tong as a greeting. Shao. Ho. Feng Rong briefly hesitated. She initially wanted to address Wu Tong as Officer Wu, but she was dumbfounded by Wu Tong's familiarity, especially when Wu Tong mentioned that Qin Guang had treated her as his sister. After some pondering, she decided to call Wu Tong as Little Wu. Tang Ying chatted with her in the ward for a few more minutes. After all, she still had other patients to take care of, so she had to leave. Wu Tong completely played the leading role. She chatted with the talkative Feng Rong and helped her peel fruits. In the end, Feng Rong could not eat them, so she stuffed them all to Qin Guang. Up until now, Qin Guang had roughly guessed Wu Tong's thoughts. He thought that she might want to take advantage of this chance encounter to ease their relationship. Never did Qin Guang expect that she would lower herself in such a manner. At this moment, Qin Guang couldn't speak as harshly as he did back then, especially in the ward. Wu Tong was already chatting passionately with her mother, telling how she got to know Qin Guang and Qin Guang once caught a thief, and Qin Guang helped out as a good citizen. Since then, the two became familiar with each other. They felt that they hit it off, so they acknowledged each other as brother and sister. Wu Tong's words were mixed with lies. She said it in front of Qin Guang, which could be considered as helping Qin Guang clean up his mess. She did not mention that he got into a fight at school and sent someone to the hospital, which was completely in line with Qin Guang's wishes. However, Wu Tong came here with the excuse that she had something to discuss with Tang Ying. After sitting for a while, Tang Ying called her after she was done with her work. Wu Tong could only secretly roll her eyes, but had no choice but to leave for the time being. After Wu Tong left, Feng Rong called Qin Guang in front of her and said, "This police sister of yours is quite a nice person." Qin Guang responded helplessly, "Yeah, she's quite nice. By the way, if we really want to acknowledge her as our godsister, we have to meet her family, right?" Feng Rong said again. Qin Guang scratched his head. "Let's not talk about this for now. We youngsters are just joking around, so don't take it seriously. You elders shouldn't get involved. That's not how you put it. Wu Tong is a 25-year-old police comrade, unlike you who are still ignorant. Since you have acknowledged her as your sister, she must have agreed after careful consideration. You can't think of fooling around. No, when I get out of the hospital we'll meet her family. It's not a bad idea to become in-laws. I really like her. She reminds me of your real sister. Feng Rong's eyes turned red as she spoke. Qin Guang was stunned. My real sister? Chapter 289. Feng Rong nodded. If she was still alive she would be 25 years old, right? Qin Guang felt that something was amiss. Suddenly, Qin Guoli's voice came from behind Qin Guang. He had just finished his surgery. It sounded a little low. He patted Qin Guang's back. Your mom didn't spout nonsense. It's all my fault for not being able to do anything back then. What's going on? Qin Guang was baffled. There was an older sister before you. Your mom was only 19 years old and she was born with congenital heart disease. Our family was poor and there was no medical care. She died in less than 3 months. It's been so many years and we can't do anything about it. In the past, everyone was poor and the medical care was far from what it is now. It's not just your sister. Many families on the street lost their children just like that. Even if we can't figure it out, we have to. We didn't mention it all these years because we didn't want to feel sad. Qin Guoli said slowly. On the other side, Feng Rong nodded with an indescribable loneliness on her face. Qin Guoli quickly went forward to comfort her. It's been so long. You just had an operation. Don't let it affect your emotions. Feng Rong nodded. I know. I just couldn't hold it in. After that she raised her head and looked at Qin Guang. I really like Wu Tong and this is fate. Feng Rong explained Wu Tong's background to Qin Guoli. Qin Guoli thought it was a good idea. Although Qin Guang seemed unreliable most of the time, the couple had always trusted his judgment. Qin Guang had taken the initiative to ask someone else to be his sister, and Wu Tong was a police officer and likable. It was a good idea for them to become in-laws. Of course, to Qin Guoli, Feng Rong was the main reason. As long as his wife liked her, he would support her unconditionally. Seeing that the two of them were getting more serious, Qin Guang was helpless and could only bite the bullet. He first searched for news about Wu Tong's father, Wu Xian, and handed it over. Take a look at this. Forget it. Wu Tong and I were really just casually talking about it. This is her father. Who do you think he is? How could he become our godson so easily? The two elders read the news about Wu Xian word by word and sighed again. The thoughts of the older generation were much more worldly than those of Qin Guang. Even without Qin Guang's explanation, the two of them knew that it was impossible once they saw Wu Xian's identity. It didn't matter what the youngster said in private, but if it involved the adults with the other party's status, he really couldn't get close to them. What a pity. Feng Rong sighed. Qin Guoli also said, yeah, what a pity. Qin Guang couldn't bear to see the two of them moaning and groaning. He got up and found a random reason to go outside to talk to Wu Tong. He thought that although his parents understood Wu Tong's family background and knew that it was impossible for them to become in-laws, Wu Tong still had to explain herself if he wanted them to stop feeling regretful over this kind of thing. Back then she had said the joke in front of his mother, and even made his mother fall in love with him because of his biological sister who had passed away, which he didn't know about. He couldn't just ignore it. Up until now, Qin Guang really thought that it was purely a chance encounter. Perhaps Wu Tong really felt apologetic about what happened that day, so when she saw him she made such a prompt decision to ease their relationship. But the more Wu Tong showed that she cared about Qin Guang, the more uncomfortable Qin Guang felt. The root of the matter was because of Liuli's god-level hypnosis. She said that emotional control was better than mental control, but in the end the repercussions were so severe. If he had known that this day would come, Qin Guang would never have agreed to emotional control. Now he couldn't figure out how he should get along with Wu Tong. Although they were friends, she seemed to be more than friends but not lovers. Although they had feelings between a man and a woman, it was impossible to erase the hypnosis that made her fall in love with him for a short period of time. In fact, Qin Guang secretly felt that even ordinary friendship couldn't get rid of the influence of that hypnosis. Otherwise, why would Wu Tong treat him so differently when she had interacted with so many people? Qin Guang looked up at the sky and sighed. I didn't want to be pretentious, but I had no choice but to be pretentious in this situation. He couldn't get over it, especially when Wu Tong actually took the initiative to humble herself after seeing him, which made him feel even more apologetic. On the other hand, Tang Ying thought that Wu Tong really had something important to do, so she hurriedly finished her work and returned to the dormitory. From the beginning, Wu Tong came for Qin Guang, so how could she really find anything important to tell Tang Ying? After being asked again and again, she had no choice but to beat around the bush. However, the more Wu Tong tried to be secretive, the more Tang Ying took it seriously, and the more she thought that she really had encountered some big trouble that she couldn't talk about. Tang Ying was almost driven mad by Wu Tong's taiji fist. Finally, she flipped out. I say, what are you doing? I thought you had something important, but you didn't say anything? Are you trying to suffocate me to death? Wu Tong's head was full of bumps from Tang Ying's interrogation. She regretted it so much that her intestines turned green. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have barged into the ward. She should have sat in her office and waited for Qin Guang to walk into the trap. Seeing her bashful look, Tang Ying said anxiously, What is it? Just say it. It's definitely not about watching a movie or something like that. Don't try to fool me. You can't be pretending to look for me, but you're actually looking for Qin Guang, right? As soon as the words came out of her mouth, something flashed across Tang Ying's mind. She pretended to be enlightened. Oh yeah, didn't you ask me on the phone the other day if the patient's name was Feng Rong? You should have known about it long ago. Why do you look like you don't know about it at all today? What's going on? Wu Tong didn't expect Tang Ying to be so quick-witted and expose her in an instant. How could she admit that she had a conflict with Qin Guang in front of her best friend and that she was here to admit defeat? She stubbornly said, What nonsense are you talking about? It's really a coincidence. I know that Qin Guang's mother's name is Feng Rong. I bumped into him by chance when I came to your place last time. He said that he brought his mother to the hospital for a minor illness. I just said it subconsciously that day. Who would have thought that I would actually guess it correctly? Fine. You can say whatever you want. I can't be bothered to argue with you. I'm not as free as a third-generation heir like you. You can do whatever you want. I'm going back to work. At this point, Wu Tong still refused to admit it. She only said it was a coincidence. Tang Ying had no choice but to roll his eyes and leave. Hearing the door open, Qin Guang, who was eavesdropping on the conversation outside the dormitory, dodged and hid in the corridor next to him. With his back against the wall, Qin Guang was at a loss. Tang Ying couldn't figure it out, but Qin Guang immediately understood. Wu Tong had come to look for him on purpose today. The so-called coincidence was just her doing it on purpose. She just wanted to create an opportunity for herself to appear in front of him. Why did you do this? Chapter 290. Why are you here? While Qin Guang was still in a daze, Wu Tong appeared at the entrance of the corridor. She saw Qin Guang leaning against the wall with a desolate look on his face. As soon as their eyes met, they vaguely understood each other's thoughts. Wu Tong was frightened by the apologetic look in Qin Guang's eyes. In fact, she would rather Qin Guang still be enraged than to see him apologetic. She didn't want an apology from Qin Guang at all. She just wanted forgiveness because she knew that she was in the wrong that day. But why is he looking at me apologetically? Why is he apologetic? Of course, it's because he still wants to keep her at arm's length. I heard what you said to Sister Tang Ying just now. You don't have to be like this. Qin Guang blushed and turned his face away. He didn't want to see Wu Tong's flustered look. What? He heard everything? Wu Tong's face turned red in an instant. He thought, what should I do now? It wasn't easy for me to create this chance encounter, and now I've ruined it. How embarrassing. She couldn't help but feel helpless and her ears were burning. Seeing her like this and thinking that she had deliberately created this chance encounter, Qin Guang's heart was almost swallowed by shame. He said, Let's forget about what happened that day. I've reflected on myself. My attitude was too bad. If I had calmed down and explained it to you, things wouldn't have turned out this way. I'm sorry. Wu Tong came back to her senses and waved her hands anxiously. No. It's my fault. Qin Guang, listen to me. Wu Tong didn't want to give him a chance to speak again. She continued like a machine gun. I really didn't know what happened that day. If I had known that your mother was going to have such a big operation, I definitely wouldn't have pestered you endlessly. Yes, I know my behavior at that time seemed ridiculous. I was indeed pestering you endlessly. But I don't know why did it turn out like this? Qin Guang shook his head. Don't. You really don't have to blame yourself. Wu Tong continued to ask, so you can forgive me? Qin Guang really couldn't stand her being so humble. He felt that it was simply torturing himself. There's nothing to forgive or not. I can't explain it clearly to you. You were in that situation because of me, but I really can't explain it. So I forget it. Anyway, I don't blame you, don't be like this. She doesn't look like the Wu Tong I know. So you still recognize me as your sister? He finally relented. Wu Tong heaved a sigh of relief and looked at him expectantly. Qin Guang was defeated by the look in her eyes. Even if he felt that something was wrong, he really couldn't say anything hurtful. He could only continue to nod. Yes, of course I recognize you as my sister. Although he said that, in his heart Qin Guang was thinking that he should deal with her first. He really couldn't see her like this. Anyway, he would agree to it today and contact her less in the future. Slowly their relationship would fade, wouldn't it? Suddenly, when he said that he recognized her as his sister, his heart inexplicably palpitated. An extremely strong sense of crisis suddenly appeared, but it flashed and then disappeared without a trace. When he came back to his senses, Qin Guang actually felt that his back was drenched in sweat at that moment. What the hell is going on? Qin Guang, who had never had such an experience, couldn't help but wonder if he was sick. The terrifying feeling of falling into a great crisis came without warning. It was extremely sudden, and the key point was that he didn't even know what the situation was. Do I have a mental illness? Intermittent mental disorder? Qin Guang was extremely puzzled. Qin Guang, what's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? Wu Tong was also startled by Qin Guang's sudden change in complexion. She went over and placed her hand on Qin Guang's forehead to see if he had a fever. Qin Guang shook his head. I'm fine, I'm fine. I'm a little not used to your polite manner, huh? He laughed it off and managed to fool her. Wu Tong's mood completely turned from gloomy to sunny. And it's good that you're fine. I've finally talked things through with you. I'm also free from worries. All of a sudden I feel a lot more relaxed. Actually, I'm not used to speaking so politely with you. She said proudly as she patted Qin Guang's shoulder. Right, I still have a while before I go on patrol. I didn't see your dad just now. Let's go back and sit for a while. Wu Tong said again as she pulled Qin Guang back. After a few steps she stopped, turned around and asked tentatively, Right, there's really nothing between you and Sun Xiaoxuan, right? Qin Guang had a headache. Nothing at the moment, but I can't say for sure in the future. Sun Xiaoxuan is a good person and I quite like her. Wu Tong's expression changed slightly, but she quickly controlled her mood. She put her hand on Qin Guang's shoulder and put her arm around his back. You're still young and you're not mature enough in terms of feelings. Don't casually make a decision to harm other girls. You have to be responsible for yourself and also for others. This kind of thing, as your older sister, I have to help you check. She said righteously, but in her heart she had already cursed herself like a pig. Wu Tong, what the hell are you thinking in your head? Qin Guang really wanted to tell her directly that her older sister's so-called checking should be replaced with stealing, right? But in the end he didn't say it because he knew that Wu Tong wouldn't admit it. Right, how did you practice your acting skills? I was completely fooled by you before, and I thought it was a coincidence that you came to find me. In order to prevent her from being too arrogant, Qin Guang decisively decided to expose her scars first. Unexpectedly, he underestimated Wu Tong's shamelessness. As long as he talked it out with him and returned to his normal state, Wu Tong would not be caught by his little tricks. Instead of feeling ashamed, he proudly raised his eyebrows and said, If you study criminal psychology properly, I guarantee that you will be able to learn what I just did without a teacher. Is that so? Qin Guang thought of his disastrous acting skills again and he was a little shocked. The two returned to the ward and Wu Tong met with Qin Guoli again. Although Feng Rong had fallen asleep, Qin Guoli was more talkative than Qin Guang. The two chatted as if they regretted not meeting each other earlier, which made Qin Guang's eyelids twitch in fright. When Wu Tong finally left, Qin Guoli's thoughts were exactly the same as Feng Rong's, who was sleeping. Lass, it's really a pity. She's older than you by 5 years. or else it would be nice to marry her. Qin Guang rolled his eyes. If I remember correctly, Dad, you know that I'm Jiang Yage's mistress, right? That day when Sun Xiaoxun came you also thought it was good. Today Wu Tong came and you can't make her your goddaughter, but you want her to become your daughter-in-law? You should consider your son's physical condition. Right, I have a prescription here. It's the super powerful tonic soup I mentioned last time. You take a look first, and when your mother's body is more stable I plan to cook it for you. No wonder you're not worried. You're prepared for it. On the other side, Wu Tong happily drove out of the hospital parking lot. Although she still felt that Qin Guang was a little worried, it didn't matter. Wu Tong firmly believed that the guy was not a stingy person, and it would be fine as long as she told him everything. That's right, you can't blame it all on me. You hid such a big thing in your family from me, humph. Qin Guang stayed in the hospital for about half an hour, and he planned to drive back to school. Tomorrow was the official summer vacation for the environmental science class, and the nouveau riche's treating had to be tonight. Before leaving, he glanced at the heavenly holy grail on the cup holder in the car, and for some reason he remembered the feeling of palpitation just now. I hope nothing big happens. Chapter 291. Everyone in the class knew that Qin Guang had gone out to earn a lot of money, but no one knew how much he had earned except for his third grandson and Sun Xiaoxuan's two best friends. Qin Guang didn't need to tell them to keep it a secret. They all knew that Qin Guang didn't want everyone to know. 100 million was still too much for an ordinary university student. If it really got out, it wouldn't take more than half a day for the whole school to be in an uproar. University students were still students. If any of them succeeded in starting a business and earned millions a year, they would be idolized by their peers in the school, not to mention Qin Guang, who had earned nearly 200 million in a few days. No matter how the money came about, the winner takes all. He had done it, and that was his capability. Qin Guang felt that when the time came, no one knew how many juniors would be waiting outside his dorm, or trying to create all kinds of coincidental encounters to get to know him, throwing themselves into his arms one after another. No kidding, 200 million in cash, a pure diamond bachelor, a master of winning by lying down, winning at the starting line of life and struggling for 100 years less. Thinking about that scene, it was simply awesome. To be reasonable, secretly finding a chance to pretend that he had accidentally spilled the beans was not a bad idea. Qin Guang let everyone eat and drink to their heart's content. After all, it was impossible to eat until he became poor. Almost everyone in the class came, even the group of people who had conflicts with him because of Pan Jiang and Wang Ren were here. Only Ren Yuan was missing, but no one cared about him. Qin Guang didn't mind that these people appeared at the table. They came to him humbly, so he didn't need to lower himself to their level and lower his status for no reason. Qin Guang also drank quite a bit. That day when he defeated Xianxia's third grandson, he didn't drink to his heart's content. He only recovered a little bit of the state he had in the Sea of Moments. Today he was the star of the show, so of course he didn't reject anyone. After 3 rounds of drinking, Qin Guang was getting a little tipsy. He remembered that he needed to top up his phone. Coincidentally, the food stall was right next to Wenxing Town's largest business hall. Hence, Qin Guang greeted everyone before he walked over with a shake of his head. Sun Xiaoxuan hurriedly caught up to him and asked what he was going to do. The rich old Master Guang waved his hand. The old man is going to top up his phone. All right, sit down. I'll help you recharge with PayPal. How much do you want to charge? Sun Xiaoxuan pulled him back to sit down again. Qin Guang did not even think about it. Help me top up 1 million yuan. The 7 or 8 people sitting at the table were silent. Even Sun Xiaoxuan and Gaoya, who knew he was super rich, looked at him as if he was an idiot, let alone the others. Idiot, even if you're drunk, you shouldn't act like this, right? The people at the next table who didn't know each other started to complain first. Usually, at a time like this, there was no need for Qin Guang and the others to say anything. What would happen next was obvious. Immediately, Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi, who drank the least, turned their gazes to where Xianxia was sitting. Faster, thief. He's already gone. Brother, your behavior is super simple. Xianxia, the walking firecracker in human form, had already appeared in front of the people at the table. His desire to fight was 10 times stronger than that of a fighting race. Can you King say one more word? Do you believe I won't beat you to death? Xianxia's breath reeked of alcohol. His face was red as he stood by the table, panting with rage. He waved his fists as he spoke, already in a pre-battle state. He was a big guy with a thick back and a bear's waist. Coupled with his half-drunk image, he was overbearing and had the ability to magnify aggro. He was the perfect choice for a main tank to pull aggro. The people in front of him were also tough. Faced with Xianxia's provocation, they didn't back down at all. They slammed the table and stood up. "What, you want to fight?" "I don't want to fight. I want to fight." "Mother ****, you started the fight first and now you're ****king arrogant?" As Bramble spoke, he lifted his foot and flipped the table of these people. The sparse barbecue and beer bottles scattered all over the floor. The faces of the 4 people darkened, and one of them took a step back with a bad temper. He reached behind his back and unexpectedly pulled out a dagger with a swish. "Idiot student, can't you see what's going on? Brother Scar and Eyeglasses Wu are in their cells. Your brother have the final say in Wenxing town." The person said and really did pull out a dagger to slash at Xianxia's arm. Xianxia was already a bit drunk. His reaction was a beat slower. He wanted to retreat, but it was already too late. The dagger was about to slash at his hand. A black shadow suddenly jumped out from beside him, grabbed the person's wrist and twisted it. The person screamed and the dagger fell out of his hand. The black shadow caught the dagger with his other hand and slashed at the guy's thigh, drawing a finger-long wound as deep as a fingernail. In an instant, the brother who was acting cool just a moment ago screamed and held his thigh as he shrank back. This black shadow was none other than Qin Guang. Qin Guang pushed Xianxia back with his right hand. "You go back first." Qin Guang didn't seem to use much force, but he pushed the tall and strong Xianxia back. Faster, thief. The other 3 saw their boss was slashed and they were about to jump up with a weird scream. Qin Guang kicked the ground with the tip of his foot and a chair flew up. He grabbed the chair with his right hand in midair, and slammed it down on the head of the second person who jumped at him. With a loud bang, wood splinters flew everywhere, and the wooden chair was broken into pieces. In an instant another person fell. From the time Qin Guang made his move to injuring 2 people, it only took 5 seconds. Everyone was dumbfounded for a moment. On the other side, the 20 or so boys in the environmental engineering class gathered around him. No matter what happened, since they were fighting, they had to stand together. The 4 people were suddenly surrounded and they began to panic. The other 2 who didn't have time to make a move didn't dare to move. "Don't mess around. You're just students, think carefully. I'm the town's." The person whose thigh was slashed by Qin Guang covered the wound with his hand and said hurriedly. But before he finished, Qin Guang put the dagger in front of his nose. "I know what you want to say. You're some kind of gang leader, right? Who the ******* are you? Why don't you ask around and find out how Brother Scar and Glasses Wu got into the cell you were talking about? To tell you the truth, I single-handedly took down more than a dozen of them at the streetlight in front of us. I was the one who called the police. When the police came, they saw the police as their savior, you understand?" Chapter 292. Although he felt that Qin Guang was spouting nonsense, the man who had his leg cut looked at Qin Guang's murderous gaze, the bloody dagger in front of his nose, and especially the murderous aura coming from Qin Guang. He had no choice but to believe it. It wasn't that Qin Guang was trying to scare him. Just as he said when he first boarded the ship in the Sea of Transient, he was just a servant. If he dared to hide at the back when fighting, he would get his neck chopped off by his own people first. At first he was also afraid. If he didn't drink some wine to boost his courage, how would he be able to charge forward? Before boarding the ship, he would drink from time to time and then rush forward with his machete. Relying on his ability to revive, he risked his life. Otherwise, how could he have become the 2nd officer of the Annie in just half a year? Today he drank some wine and got a little tipsy. The other party actually pulled out a knife without saying a word. If it wasn't for his swift actions, Xianxia would probably be lying on the ground bleeding. How could Qin Guang not be angry? It was true that Xianxia flipped the table first, but if it wasn't for their rude words earlier, why would Xianxia go over? Of course, the so-called right or wrong wasn't important. In the pugilistic world, the most outstanding thing was to help one's kin and not reason. Therefore, Qin Guang didn't hesitate to make a move. At this moment he had a weapon in his hand and he saw blood. If he wasn't careful, he would completely return to the Sea of Transient, and he wanted to smell some blood. With Qin Guang pointing a knife at his nose, this brother completely panicked. He was really afraid that Qin Guang would rush to his head and thrust the knife forward. Wouldn't that stab through his nose and into his brain? Bro, I was wrong. Qin Guang looked at him expressionlessly. Wrong? I don't think you did anything wrong. After all, I hurt you quite badly. How many people do you plan to find for revenge? Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to pull Qin Guang from behind, but because Qin Guang's dagger was too close to Qin Guang, Sun Xiaoxuan was afraid that he would accidentally push Qin Guang's hand forward, so he didn't dare to exert force. Brother, don't be rash. I won't take revenge. He really didn't want to take revenge. I've been injured many times worse than this. Now that I know you've defeated Brother Scar and Eyeglasses Wu, how could I not be happy with you? By the way, I bought this saber for more than 800 yuan. I also have a scabbard here. The workmanship is quite exquisite. Take it as a greeting gift. Let's just forget about this. What if the situation is not good? A decisive coward. No explanation. Once you're scared, don't even think about trying to save face and suffer. I'm a coward to the end. If you don't like it, then come and hit me. As long as they didn't beat him to death. These Jianghu brothers of Wenqing town had been oppressed by Brother Knife Scar and Glasses Wu for a few years, and they had their own philosophy of life. Now was the chance to train their troops for 1,000 days and use them for a single moment. Qin Guang grinned. It's good that you know what's good for you. This matter was over for the time being. But Qin Guang didn't let them leave immediately. He only asked them to call 120 and wait for the ambulance. He grabbed one of the two who could still move and forced him to accompany him to the business office. Watch carefully. Watch how I top up my phone. I said 1 million, so it's 1 million. This time, Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't stop them. He dragged them to the business office, where Qin Guang took out his black card and topped up the phone on the spot. Then he dragged them back. Qin Guang waved his phone. Now do you still think I'm pretending? Oh no. The four of them shook their heads like a rattle drum. Get lost. Qin Guang waved his hand and they ran away in fear. Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't help but say that he was being wasteful. By now, Qin Guang had sobered up quite a bit from the alcohol, so he explained to Sun Xiaoxuan, "Sai, it's hard for me to explain in a few words. My phone bill is tens of thousands a month. Maybe my 1 million will be gone in less than a year." How is that possible? You have to follow the basic rules even if you want to burn your phone bill. Everyone exclaimed. Qin Guang sighed again. Sai, it's really hard to explain in a few words. Can I tell you that in the time we took to brag over a meal, a certain someone hiding in the cup at the dinner table had already finished talking about an entire episode of a TV series? That's right. About half an hour ago, perhaps Liuli was too engrossed in the TV series and accidentally leaked some audio, which made Qin Guang realize a tragic fact. Liuli, this woman, had actually started watching The Big Time halfway through learning about business. Hey, although that was a classic business war film, doing business in real life was different from doing business in the TV series. Moreover, even if The Big Time really had some business methods, that was a TV series that was released in 1992, alright? 24 years had passed since then, alright? The price of pork had increased by 6 times, alright? Could the business methods of the past still be used now? Qin Guang wouldn't explain it to the others, so they didn't insist on asking him. But after this incident, although the others in the class still didn't know how much money he had, just from the fact that he had recharged 1 million a month, they knew that he had really struck it rich. Quite a few girls in the class looked at Qin Guang in a different light. He was definitely a mobile human ATM. One really couldn't blame the girls for being tacky. Qin Guang's popularity in the class wasn't low to begin with. Although everyone could tell that Sun Xiaoxuan had feelings for him, the two of them weren't really a couple after all. Even if they were married, they could still get a divorce. The two of them hadn't even confirmed their relationship, so what they were doing couldn't even be considered as poaching. It was only natural that everyone who saw it had a share. The one who struck first had the advantage and the one who struck last had to suffer. What happened next wasn't hard to understand. One after another, the girls gathered around Qin Guang. Even Xiong and Bai Nyangzi were pried open. As for Lin Jingwei, he was in charge of restraining Gaoya. Seeing that Qin Guang had become a hot commodity, Sun Xiaoxuan, who had been sitting opposite Qin Guang in a reserved manner, panicked. However, it was already too late for her to move to get a seat. Two other girls had already sat down on either side of Qin Guang. Qin Guang, ever since I entered university, I've felt that you weren't an ordinary guy. Although I don't know what you've been up to, let's have a drink. I wish you all the best. I've never drunk alcohol before. You have to drink this glass of wine. The girl sitting on the left side of Qin Guang was the first to attack. She raised her glass and moved closer to Qin Guang, pressing her full breasts against him. The two mountains in front of her chest clamped Qin Guang's left arm, one on the left and the other on the right. It was like a ham sausage in a hot dog bun. It launched a crazy attack on Qin Guang's rationality and character. Although this girl wasn't as cute as Sun Xiaoxuan, and her appearance couldn't be considered a stunning beauty, about 7 or 8 out of 10, her figure was really not bad. She could be considered a beauty whose back view was a 9 out of 10. Suddenly being attacked, Qin Guang suddenly froze. He thought that money was too scary. If he couldn't resist it even though they had been classmates for 3 years, those unfamiliar senior sisters and junior sisters must be no better. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.